Okay, the hour being after 7 o'clock. We have a quorum. We'll open up the meeting. First thing, item of business, minutes. We have April 3rd and April 17th. A motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Okay. Any discussions?
We're just doing the 2 April ones?
Yeah. Do we have anything?
May one
No,
more.
well, I see there's a May one listed.
Yeah,
They
okay.
weren't ready, John.
So, okay. So we have no comments. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. All right. Run. What?
Who seconded? She wanted to know.
Someone.
I did.
Not about it. All right. Next thing, Quail Run. Accept plan endorsement covenant. You have it?
I do.
Huh? All right. Pretty. All right, we have from the town clerk that there's been no appeals to this 1263, 1271 North Street. I mean Washington Street, so. All right. That being said, we're gonna do the Form F first. Do we have the Form F?
Yep. These all signed tonight. Making sure Kyle wants them all signed tonight.
Quail done?
Yeah, I looked at everything. Prior to them being endorsed, we did make a couple of changes and edits and dates and things like that. Outside of that, we're fine.
Okay.
I think the versions you have are endorsed.
This is-
All right, we have a private way covenant. So I'll make a motion to it. We don't even call this a form, oh, there's a Form E. I'll do the Form F first. Make a motion to accept Form F.
Second.
There's a second from
Bill.
Phil. Yep, all those in favor?
Aye.
I don't see where we sign it. Right? Nope. You agree?
I don't know, Attorney O'Connell prepared those documents. You have the signature page?
Not for us. I didn't see it.
I don't think so.
No.
The Form F?
Oh, the Form F.
That's your standard form.
Yeah, no, it's all set. All right, and we have a private way covenant. All right, and we do sign this off. Kyle, you all set on the private way
Yes.
covenant? Make a motion to accept the private way covenant.
Okay.
Second from Phil, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, okay. 5-0. We all get to sign it. I'll go this way.
Just for clarity, Mr. Chairman, the Form F in the subdivision book does not have a signature for the board
Okay.
to sign.
I believe you. All right, maintenance, you've checked this out, I assume?
Yes.
All right. I don't think there's any place for us to sign, because it's just a maintenance for,
I'm trying to remember, one has a signature block for the board and one doesn't.
yeah, this doesn't, because there's nothing to sign. I mean, meaning this is for the,
I think you signed the private way covenant, though.
yes, we did that.
Okay.
All right. Make a motion to accept the mutual maintenance agreement.
Second.
Second, Kate, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, so there we go.
Great.
Done.
You gotta sign the top.
Yep.
All right. Next one up, while we're still running ahead, garden path.
Oh, wait a minute, you have to sign the endorsement plans.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had, jumped. Make a motion to endorse.
Second?
John, second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Today's date. Is it 14?
Today's the 15th.
Hey, Dan, I don't remember seeing Liz sign these much. Is it an option or not?
What do you mean?
Well, town clerk.
She signed them all.
I know, but I don't think I've seen that unless they're hidden from our signature block.
We always have town clerk sign, it's required.
Okay, well, it must be hidden on the others then. Maybe with other guys, they don't do it.
Well, we used to put it in a different spot, because she requests us to move it away from your signature block, but this time we put it near your signature block.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, it used to be up in the corner.
You didn't do what she said?
Initially, she wanted
You're
it
still
up in
able
the
to come in?
corner, and then...
You're still able to come in here?
That's been blessed by the town clerk. Dan was reluctant to move it because of prior experience, but it went down to Liz, and she was okay with it.
Ooh, must be a charm, Dan.
This is why he's trying to get it.
Of course.
Not yours, Cal. We'll go. You wanna go that- Oh, sorry. Kate wants to go that way. While everybody's signing, do we want to do, we're almost right there, garden path? Is that yours too? Where's that? I don't remember.
It's Washington Street.
It's off of Washington Street,
Lepolis's house.
by the school, by Bird School.
Oh, yeah, Alexander Way or whatever it is. Yeah, okay.
Looks like a very small change.
Yes.
Do we have that, Kate?
You can tell we're getting near July. The pens are drying
Is what
up.
this is, the picture for?
Picture.
Yeah, that's a photo standing on Alexandra looking out to Washington Street, and it shows the driveway.
Jack.
All right, so this has got to do with the driveway, correct?
Yeah, this is a request for a minor change or a field change. There's an existing driveway for 595 Washington Street, which is the property to the left of this subdivision that runs down the lot line. A small piece of land between the road and that property has already been deeded to the Mons, and the Mons have decided they'd like to keep their driveway in that location, and their little turnaround area extends into the layout of the road. So we have driveways and layouts all the time. It's just, this is a little unusual because it doesn't actually connect to the road. So the original plan showed their driveway being connected to the new road. They don't want to do that anymore. They just want to leave what they have. And Carl provided that photo that shows you what it is. It's basically a small area of a couple hundred square feet that's in the outer edge of the layout.
So, just make it simple, Kyle, if this has already been approved, this wouldn't even come here. This is just a driveway, right?
Just a driveway, yeah, you can see on the photo, if you leave the driveway in, the side slope's a little steeper than it would have been, but you can also see that it's been fantastically seeded and stabilized, and, there's no issues with that. And I understand it to be a contentious issue with the Mons. So, I'm not in love with it, but I'm not objecting to it.
Okay. We have fantastic seating. Is that a technical?
Yeah,
term?
they reseeded it this spring and it took off.
Well, some of it's still going, but, so basically, this is a driveway.
It's a driveway.
We don't approve driveways, we don't do anything with them. We never have, never will.
No, but it was part of the subdivision plan.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if it still wasn't on the bond, we wouldn't even see this, would we? My point is, where I'm going is, this is like one of those modifications that has nothing to do with Mass General Law and subdivision.
Basically, yes.
It doesn't change the street, so
Right.
just trying to, so we get it on the record, I'll make the motion that this is considered a minor modification.
Second.
Okay, second. It's nice that they do it to full size, so you can see it before you vote it. That's all done.
Do it to full size.
Do the whole thing. I mean, I know this is not a sketch, this is,
Oh, it's been there, yeah.
yeah, that's what I mean. It's nice that you do it so we, yeah, Okay, we got a second, Phil, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained?
What will be done with the paved area now? Is that just gonna be left as is?
As is, no change.
That also enters his property. You can see the two are not connected.
Is there anything that prevents you from just driving up here and going this way?
Common sense.
Don't trip on my bag. It's sort of in a bad place.
What?
Thank you.
All right, oh, Phil, John, you gonna be able to watch while you still sign, or you wanna wait?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe wait. Just
Wanna wait? Okay.
real quick.
Just sent me a job in Texas. Wanted to do it. I think it came from my house. Go!
You should have a little snack.
Yeah.
Those are good.
That's what it sounded like. Oh, I didn't bring my water. Is that your water or mine?
It's mine, but I'll share. If you want it, you can have it.
Wait a minute, you share it?
No, you can have it.
Oh, you don't want to get any, what do you call it? That's
I'm
all right.
fine.
No, I don't need it. If I was eating those, I would.
Check. This
I
is
took my
505.
cootie medicine today
No,
also.
don't take it personally.
What cootie medicine?
He's saying because I said I wouldn't share my water, I would give him my water.
Yes. I was gonna say, can I have a sip? My cold sore just as I was going.
Yes.
Figured.
Front row.
Old Carl. Still waiting for them to fix that blowout on 27. Did you ever mention it to anybody?
Which one?
Well, I told you back in March, along the guardrail, just past my house. You look, got one post is like 3 feet gone. I don't think it's gonna fall down, but someone hits it, it's just gonna fall over, that's all.
If I had my phone, I'd text him now, but I don't have it.
What?
I don't have my phone, I would text Drew now. For some reason, they don't like to venture into that section of Route 27, Mr. Chairman.
Why? I don't shoot people. They don't like me down there.
I didn't say that.
Hey, I used to be some help.
I used to be some help too.
You did too, John?
Yeah. Box. Department.
Mr. Keating?
Little Parks.
No,
Froggy.
no, the guy up in Grant Street,
Froggy worked at
what
Mimi's.
was his name?
He worked at DPW. He was on Grant.
Grant?
Yeah. Up in, old guy,
They all
had
worked.
a gray pickup truck. The cab over it.
What department?
Box.
Wasn't Bonesy. It wasn't Lamp. Was it Lamp? No.
Mr. Lamperti?
No, it wasn't Lamp. Wasn't Keating.
Frank something? No. You got one you missed if you wanna,
I said, wait.
you missed one if you wanna grab it.
Yeah. You have my water and you can eat
No,
dinner.
no, no. Actually, those are. this one off, and then we'll get on the rest.
It's going.
Why would I drink that?
So you're gonna tell me now?
That stuff,
Next week.
No.
I know.
I'm gonna have to go
I
look
said,
it up.
wait, I'm just being nice.
Can't help it.
This will be at another time later?
What's that floating in there? Oh,
Like 74
Nothing floating.
or something like that.
the cootie. Oh, he's zooming in on it.
Like your window?
You all set, John?
Yes.
All right. What do you want to do? You want to do that, or you get your plans? What do you want? Your plans first or this?
I have the
I
elastic.
have it.
No, but I gotta take copies. Okay. Very precise.
I appreciate that. He could be an engineer.
Almost. Play one on TV at least.
Of course, we would've lost money on it by the time we rolled it out.
It's their service. Thanks, guys.
All right, we're at 505 South, and you only had a few things left, and what I have in front of me, Dan, is May 15th from Alan Hover.
Over.
Over. And he finds the plans acceptable, so you're all set there. And my favorite chairman, John Hassaneyer, Sewer and Water, and the commission are concerned that the parking lot is very close to the wells in Area 1 and 2, so it's important the environmental catch basins be properly maintained. So I assume this is the same letter they sent on Darwin.
Yeah, we have an O&M plan for the maintenance of all drainage features.
Yeah, I know, but what I just said probably you didn't get.
No, I know about that.
Yeah, okay. I think Kyle's the last one we have. You want to read it, Kyle, or?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, very short. May 8th, I delivered a memo to the board. Basically, I said I've reviewed the responses by Mr. American, agree with his responses. Further, I verified that the changes noted to the end of the letter, which were additions by the Fire Department Conservation Commission, have been added to the plan. And then at last, I mentioned that both the conservation agent and myself are comfortable with the stormwater report. Summary, we're all set.
Okay. Anybody from the audience have any questions, comments regarding to the continuation of site plan 505 South Street? Being none? All right, John, do you have any questions, comments before we?
No. Oh, wait, I have one question. Your letter, here, the 23rd of April, there's a comment, wooden guardrail that exists along the easterly side of the tanks is now proposed to extend around the west side as well. Could you identify where that location is?
Right here. So there was a guardrail around this side of the tank.
Okay.
On the parking lot side, so the fire department requested that we provide protection along the back side, so we just added it along the back
Okay,
side.
I'm all set then.
Okay, Phil?
And I don't know if that they're waiting for the ComCom, is that all been resolved?
Been issued.
They're all
It's
set.
been approved.
Okay, yeah, I have no comments.
Kate?
Nope.
Paul?
I'm good.
I'm good. All right, everybody being good, no questions, comments from the public, I'll make a motion. We should do the, I don't even know if you have any special conditions. Do it?
None, Mr. Chair.
All right, well, let it note, we don't have any special conditions, so I'll make a motion to approve site plan case 2501.
Do you need to close the meeting first?
You can do it, the hearing, when you close the hearing, it just allows nobody to give testimony, so it doesn't, I mean, if Dan says something, we'll just say, we'll flunk it. So I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
Yeah. We have a tie.
give it to Bill.
Okay.
Bill, yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so standard condition, no special conditions, and you're done, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, with the hour being after 7:15, we have a continued subdivision hearing for 3 Heidi. We have from their engineer, it says, please allow this letter to serve a request to continue and keep the public hearing open for the application up through the 27th of June, and they'd like to continue to the next available meeting on June 5th. So the applicant has requested not to go forward tonight, so he's given us an extension up through the 27th. So make a motion to accept to the 27th
27th of which month?
June. So it's a formal motion. Do I get a second?
Second?
Second from John, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and he wants to go on the 5th of June. Do we get time?
7:20.
Okay.
What do we have on the 5th, Kate?
A new one, Summer Street, 49 Summer Street.
All right. All right, we'll continue this hearing until June 5th at 7:20. Okay, so,
And Jack, I assume the applicant knows that the board will have a different makeup.
They do.
yeah,
Yeah.
if he doesn't,
He's in trouble now.
a little too late.
Yeah.
All right, so that's Heidi. All right. Now, what's next? Do we get something next?
With Kearsarge.
Oh, I never would have guessed that. Never would have guessed that. Get this out of my pocket. Get this out of my pocket. All right. The hour being after 7:20, we have a continued public hearing for Kearsarge 400 Main Street, case 2414. And do we have anything, Kate?
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, let the record show that the town engineer stands recused.
Town engineer is what? I'll change that on the meeting notes next time.
Yeah, it goes to Jack.
Check.
All right. Is this all, what's, Kate, what are they?
Sorry, it's all Kearsarge. No,
What?
it's all yours.
For tonight?
Yep.
All right. All right. We have the hearing, continued public hearing opened, and I will read the comments from the different town boards so that we get that out of the way. First off is, where's one? I think we already read this, right, Kate?
They
Yeah,
might have, they came in twice, so.
yeah. From Jim Thomas regarding the trees, that was read on 5-1. The police was read on 5-1 that said they didn't have any safety. Oh, yeah, these are all 5-1s. Back. Nice dating. All right, now, moving forward here, what do we got? Email. Did we have any comments from, yeah, didn't we get some from the fire? Oh, not Kate.
We did comments.
Yeah, there was a new one that just
But
came
I don't
in,
have it, though.
in the answer to the plan, the new plan.
Yeah,
I think I printed
It's
it.
in your folder then.
it's in my, you think? That's the- oh, is that the one I got through?
No.
Oh, well, yeah, so, right, okay.
Yes, that was today.
Okay. All right, we have, the only thing I guess we got from any department updated is May 15th from Alan Hover, Deputy Fire Chief. The fire department supports the applicant installing and maintaining a fence around the site perimeter. We find the multiple access points acceptable for our operations, and the gates are to be maintained and with an access of at least 20 feet. So we did that. And let it be noted that on the last meeting, we asked, he beat the 2 weeks, and he gave us the AST pre-qualification notice, gave the link to all the meetings and so on, and they pointed out the noise level assessment, and we did request somebody from the county to be here who's involved with this. So with that being said, you did all that stuff. Do we have someone from the county?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and members of the board. We have William Buckley here from the county tonight
Okay.
in attendance. And would you like me just to provide some context on the response from the fire department? So following up on the last meeting, we did send through those items that had been requested, and so happy to take any questions in relation to those. In addition, based on feedback we'd received, we've looked into and would be willing to install a fence around the array, because we had heard that was, the primary concern from a number of the neighbours and the board itself. As part of that assessment, we did go to the fire department to ask for their assessment, clearly, and that resulted in the letter you saw today from Deputy Chief Hover, where he identified that they're supportive of and the fence and the arrangement of the gates as they stand, and that would support their response plan as it stands. And so that would be as a condition of approval that we would install that fence.
Yeah.
Do you mind?
I just have one
Of course I
question.
do.
So I couldn't, the plan you sent with the fence, I could not expand it. Like, when I expanded it, it didn't allow me to move it. So I could only expand on one. Do you have something we can look at?
I can hand out some 11 by
And can you explain
17s.
the details of it? Like,
Sure.
how high is it? What's it made of? You
Yeah.
know, if you could just go over it a
Yeah,
little.
I'll grab some of these plans and just
Thank you.
circulate them.
There's a note on Jess. I couldn't open it either.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
Am I the
tricky
first
one.
one to do that?
Don't.
No,
Actually, have a good setup.
I do it often too.
So this is a site plan, this is the principal plan. This shows the next thing.
At least you didn't hit your head, right?
Yeah, that big tree flew apart. Yeah. There we go.
Thank you.
There we go. Sorry. We can also pull that on the screen. I have a picture there if that would help.
I think that would be good for the audience.
That'd be great. That'll just take me a moment to look up.
Okay.
Is there from a technology standpoint, is there a plug they'll plug into to bring it up on screen?
It has to be, because they usually do it.
I think these gentlemen know Becker.
So, my question is, see this? Does it not go all the way around?
I'll start just by describing on the plan set for you. I think the gentleman's going to do the HDMI connection. So we can
Share this good thing. Did you ever see all this?
They're just going to get the cord. It's an HDMI.
No, he said, he was aware that it was very small.
Yeah, that's fine. So just briefly, and I'll repeat it.
No, I'm not gonna speak someone else's words.
So if you turn to,
Oh, we didn't get anything back.
turn to P1 and 2. So the plan set you have in front of you or the plan you have in front of you is C102, which is the basic layout of the site. The fence line is following the limit of work, so basically tracing the outside edge of the lot from the north all the way down the east boundary. It skirts the existing track that's used for walking across country. Here's like
Where's the Aggie versus?
oh,
Just orientate us to like.
yeah, sure. So, the Aggie is down here. That's the existing livestock farm. Is it okay if I do this?
Yeah, I can see.
Sure. So the fence line basically traces the outside edge of the lot. We have the battery storage system and switch gear just here. And the fence line connects to that existing fence line that we had shown on previous plans, moves across the road, and then moves up to the west side of the array, basically sitting on the limit of work on the west end, on the western side of the array. So it completely encompasses the array. What we've added is a gate over here. What we've added is a gate in this location here, and you have a reference to that, so that allows access to the fire break around the perimeter. We've added a gate up here and a gate up here so that the Aggie can open those gates and use it for their events. The hayride, the cross-country meets and the like, they can use it for those events. And so the fire department will have access to all those gates, and then coordinate with the county and the Aggie. They would have access to those gates to allow the activities that were important to them during the various meetings we held. We reviewed this with the county, and the county finds it acceptable, which is why we went through that step on the last meeting to make sure that they, as the property owner, are on board with that fence line. It's going to be the standard fence that we used at North Street. So it's a 7-foot fence, chain wire, and the gates would be 20 feet wide, so standard road with gates. And that would allow the farm team, they're actually scheduled to be out there this coming week to hay the field. So that would allow them to move their machinery around the site, with those 3 large gates. They would open those when they're haying or when they're baling. And happy to answer any further questions on that.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you have any more? Oh, Kate, you asked a question, you all set in the fence?
Yeah, I think that gives me the
Okay.
detail.
So that came from the fire department today. Okay.
I just have one quick question.
Yep.
So one of the reasons you had for not having the fence was so that farm machinery, when it went down one row, could come back the next?
Yeah, so
Is that, this going to still allow that? Is that?
Yeah, this will allow the farm machinery to move through the roads. And the principal reason for not having the fence was to leave the entire pasture open, because that had been communicated to us as being important at the time for the various activities, but also for the farming. But with the location of the gates as we've arranged them, that'll allow the farming to continue. And coordinating with the county on the events that they have, we can open the gates so that they can have the events that are important.
All right. Before I open it up, John, do you have any questions, comments? No?
I have one comment, but it's not for them per se. Check. We received, who was it? We see a copy of the email concerning the accident reports and similar solar arrays. My question to the person who provided that is, are these all supposedly Massachusetts locations, or are these locations throughout the country?
Nope, they're Massachusetts and Rhode Island. They're all local,
All these are local?
all local.
Thank you.
I think there's two of them though.
2 of them what?
Well,
This is not Massachusetts. It's got Union
they're all-
City, they're all over the country. I think that's
Then that was a different one. The one I provided
Yeah.
at the last meeting
Was just,
only
yes,
Massachusetts.
so
and
John has a different
I have a
one.
different one, I
Oh.
guess.
Which is
And I sent
all
that
over the
to fire
country.
chief
Just so
also.
everybody understands, we have the original that you gave us, the pretty colored one, and the one that must have got sent, meaning that it's got the whole rest of it, so
Oh, okay.
that's how we ended up with that.
So, just for clarity's sake, this is actually then apparently accident sites throughout the country, I'm assuming.
Yeah, the one with the black and white one, yep.
Yeah. Okay. And this is over a period of, let's see, about 5 years. So we have 10 accidents in about 10 years. A question through you, what is the, do you have an idea of the approximate number of solar arrays across the country? Is that, do you have a ballpark number of what it might be?
I don't have a ballpark.
Okay, thank you. Nothing else for me then.
Okay, Phil?
Yeah, and I just want to say on the fire, I did a little research on it, and, you know, you can find a lot of articles out there that, you know, there's always a risk for any technology where you have electricity of a fire, but the risk of solar arrays having a fire is extremely low. And I could give you some links to that, John. Again, not to say there's no risk, but it's certainly a relatively low risk. I think it's good that you're doing the fence. I think that addresses a lot of the concerns that people had over the you know, the risk, you know, the offering,
Want to do this first?
you know, an temptation for kids or whatever, so I think that's good. And I did read through, and I'll come back to this later, but I don't really have any other questions. I do think, though, I did talk to the Department of Agriculture, or the State Agriculture in Amherst, and, you know, I do think it's a good opportunity to show how agriculture and solar can coexist, and the state has a big initiative doing that, so.
residential area?
I said, well,
No, ma'am, please.
so I do think this is a good thing there, but and obviously there are concerns in the community, and we want to make sure that those are addressed, but.
I have one other question, if I could interrupt for a second.
Yep.
Within this email or handout relating to certain fire accidents, they reference a fire suppression system. Is there such a fire suppression system within your project? I'm not sure exactly what the term.
There is a hydrant that we're installing, so the
Hydrant.
fire department will have access to water, and but there is no, it's not like an indoor fire suppression system that you might think about. And I think, and, you know, ask the Google, but there was 5 million installations currently, solar installations across
Thank
the
you.
country.
All right.
Okay.
You all set? All set, Phil? All right.
Yeah.
Kate?
So I'm glad to see the fence because it is something that was asked for. I'll be honest and say, I'm concerned with the inconsistency in answers. So we were told repeatedly you couldn't have a fence. You couldn't do the program if you had the fence. Now we can have a fence.
I think the program issue was the height.
And then,
Sorry, it wasn't the fence, it was the height.
but we were told there couldn't be a fence.
Well, what we had explained is that the fence, the system is installed, one of the drivers of the installation of the system as an agricultural system was to allow full access and full continued use of the property. What we've now done is fenced it off, so it's going to be accessible for the farming operation that we've described and for limited use by the county, but it doesn't provide the full access that had been originally intended. So that is why we didn't have the fence. So when we say that it couldn't be built without the fence, we weren't able to provide the full access to the field that had initially been requested with the fence on. But we've responded to the feedback we got, and we put the fence in, we worked with the county, they've accepted it, and we can make arrangements to allow access for the events. So it's a modified result, but we can still achieve the agricultural dual use intent of the facility with the fence.
But I also blatantly asked about, were there incentives to that height? Because I was trying to find the middle ground, and we were told it was the UMass program, and never would you come out and say
We
that there was a
communicated.
financial
We
incentive
communicated.
until Mr. DePasca brought that out. He was the one who brought that forward. So I feel like we're just getting the least we can be told, and that worries me. It's not that I'm not accusing you of giving false answers, it's that, you're holding the cards close, so we only get a little bit, and that always worries me. Because I'm a straight shooter, I probably tell people too much, so.
So there are incentives for building canopies over parking lots because they're more expensive to build. I didn't at any point communicate
No.
that there was no incentive.
No, but you didn't say there was when I asked.
No, I wish to disagree with that. What I said when asked was that there was a program, the SMART program, and when you asked if there were incentives associated with building an agricultural array, we did answer that question. And the SMART program information is publicly available, and it does identify incentives related to rooftop arrays, it identifies incentives related to parking lot arrays, there are incentives related to brownfield arrays. So
But this
everyone-
wasn't, so I'll disagree with you, just like you'll disagree with me. And I will say it was not explained until Mr. DePasca explained it. So we can go around in circles all day. And I'm not accusing you of lying or anything like that. I'm just saying, I feel we've been told the least, and that always worries me. But is anyone from the Aggie, did anyone from the Aggie come? Not the county, the Aggie.
I think Mr. Buckley's here representing the county and in their role as overseer of the
Yeah,
Aggie.
that was my question last time.
Yeah, no, I was looking more for someone from the school to tell us about, what I had asked before, if they could, jump in on the hydration and things like that, so I would have liked to have heard that, but, no, that's all I have.
Okay. Paul?
Have we determined what material will be underneath these panels?
So it's the existing hay mix, and that was as part of the condition for the Mass DOER predetermination. We're planting, in areas where it needs replanting, we'll replant with the existing hay mix, but also with an enhanced hay mix.
But two concerns, there's many concerns, but the two major is the aesthetics of this and fire concern, right? These things, gather heat, and we got cases in front of us, right? So now you mix hay, which is a very highly flammable, right, grass. So, there's gonna be, there's, you can't make somebody say, go out there and mow that, hay or harvest the hay or whatever the term is. I'm sorry, I'm not a farmer.
It's
But
a requirement of the program. In fact, they're out this coming week haying in that field because they do a first cutting typically in May. As part of the program, they'll do at least 2 cuttings through the season. They cut the hay when it's at between 12 and 16 inches, so around about that high. And the array, if you had seen the photos, is up at 11 feet. So there's a substantial clearance between the array and the hay is cut at basically a 12 to 16 inch height.
Well, I'm not necessarily, Dan, worried about that the hay's gonna grow so high that it's gonna come in contact with the panel,
Okay.
right? But still, that heat, right, the intensity. Do we know the heat intensity underneath the panels? What that
Panels
will be?
actually act as a shading mechanism, and so part of the Mass DOER study and with UMass is looking at the positive effect the panels have on the ground temperature that results in less evaporation during the growing season. So that's part of the analysis that they look at.
But my question to you is, do you know what the temperature will be underneath that panel?
I can't tell you what the temperature on the ground level will be, but what I can tell you is that the study work done by UMass and by other projects applying to these types of grants, in part is looking at the effect of the shading and the dropping of the temperature of the ground during the day and the water retention associated with that. So they're looking at the effect of the shading. It's intentionally designed to minimize the shading that will shade the ground. I think we've heard that there was some concern about the shading of the ground actually resulting in the grass not growing. So there will be shading, and there's no expectation that it's going to actually increase.
I know, but Dan, you sit there nonchalantly and just try to, just like, the shade, you talk about shading and so forth. You just Google searched that there's 5 million solar parks. You gotta believe that there's data out there that says what is the temperature underneath a panel.
I can't answer that, unfortunately.
But when you wanna know that, right? Because now you wanna know the temperature and the likelihood of hay catching on fire.
There are 5 million arrays, I think we just determined, and the majority of those that are ground mounted are at 3 feet above the ground. And this is going to be 11 feet above the ground. I think the evidence would suggest that there's not a lot of spontaneous combustion.
Yeah.
I could say that I did a lot of reading on this because I looked at Cornell, which has done a lot of research, and I talked to the gentleman at UMass, and they actually got a government grant to do an ongoing study. But one of the impact is that the temperature on the arrays is actually less because of the ground, the cover on the ground and the moisture. So it actually does less stress on the actual solar panels. The trade-off is they may not get as much hay. But it can't be more than 50% shaded based on the SMART program. So there's very strict guidelines on that.
And we have 68 ground-mounted facilities across the Northeast, and we've not had one occurrence of hay catching on fire because of our so traditionally arrayed solar facilities, which are much lower than the ground.
I mean, the big push for these is because it allows farmers to get another source of revenue by having solar on their farmland and still farming, because we don't want to take farmland away. And that's what the state is doing.
Phil, I totally, and again, probably the world here would be for farmers, but yet again, go to Nebraska where there's farms, you don't see people's houses. You come to Walpole, Massachusetts, to a quote-unquote farming school, and there's houses. So I don't know if what you're saying resonates with me, just because, again, somebody said in the audience, it's a residential neighborhood as well, that abuts this farming school. So, two concerns here. Again, aesthetics, not much we can do, The other is, now the intensity of, solar and how it attracts heat and stuff like that. Again, just trying to be safe here, where we're playing with hay, right? Great that there's a fire hydrant, great, all the things that you've done, so I applaud you, but it's not fast enough. By the time the fire guys roll down there, hook up to the hydrant to put it out, hay's gonna catch, right, trees and so forth, and right now into into a house. So I would like to know, me personally, like to know more about heat and that underneath that,
The fire department has reviewed this.
Yeah.
And their determination is that
There's no risk.
well, there's always a risk to a fire anywhere.
Yeah.
Their determination is that their response procedures are adequate. And this is governed by the National Electricity Code, and the NFPA code, the National Fire Code. And so we'll be in full compliance with that. And once again, I point to our own experience with 68 of these arrays across, 68 ground-mounted or so arrays across the Northeast with no fires due to panel heat, and the fact that there are, according to Google, 5 million arrays across the country, and we have a handful of examples of fires, and not all of those were necessarily, we weren't provided that information, but I don't know if they're all cited as ignition sources because of the solar, or if they were simply fires in solar arrays.
Most fires occur because of a short circuit or something in the installation. It doesn't occur because of the panels.
Right.
It's because of the installation of the panels. So having a good installer is one of the first things you'll see in any of the safety issues with solar. And people have solar on their houses galore, so it's not it's just like having a electric car in your garage. There is a risk having a lithium batteries.
I think that's a fair point. That these arrays are placed on top of rooftops, on top of asphalt shingles, and have a result.
But the batteries are far from the houses.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. You all set?
Yeah.
All right. I got some notes or whatever. I took in what you sent us that night and started reading through. And I'll I'll give the overview of what I found. Your initial slides was on October of 20, that these appeared that you presented them to the commissioners, because it wasn't a public meeting, and you showed both North Street and Fisher, and they're all ground mount. 1,000 kilowatts, at the time was located between Covey and Walden, and about in the middle, and there was like, well, a couple hundred feet, and there was big forest between. All right, that's what the slide showed. Then on the 29th of 2020, another presentation, had to be, because I'm looking at your slides. You had an alternate site, which is what we're dealing with here, but you did have a fence for the original one. And so this was still an alternate at that time, and North Street was the same, didn't change. On the January 31st, 2021, you guys had in your presentation, showed the canopy and the parking, you showed the original site plan at Walden and Covey, listed the present plan as an alternate, you showed the fence, and the prelim was revised and moved away from Walden. It was about 300 feet, and you had more on North Street. So these are the ones I guess you guys did with the county. On January 10th, 2022, you did a project update, and I assume this was in front of the commissioners, because this is where you introduced the High, this new smart, or whatever we call it, and it said that you were going to use 3 acres, the existing 3 acres, and then you're going to be cutting some others. It looked like you're 250 feet away. More, I'm just going down, they had appraisal done, and they said it's worth $420,000. You guys offered the town, or the Aggie, offered the town for $31,000 a year for 20 years to rent. And just so everybody in the audience knows what happens with county property, anytime that they have surplus, they have to offer the town, the state first, which I haven't seen. I don't know if it got offered the state, I know that's not your, well, I don't see anything in here that said they said no, but that would have been nice.
And then the town.
Well, actually, I don't think the town, they just never answered. Well, it's not in there. I'm reading what was given to me, so it wasn't in there, I didn't see anything from the state. Your first public meeting was on May 16th, 2022. And actually, it wasn't really a public meeting, it's according to chapter, on Mass 34, chapter 14, that anytime you do want something on land like this, they have to have a public forum. And the forum, I'm going for the transcripts, and it was very clear in the transcripts that this is not a trial, and they're not answering questions, all it was to show the people what you were doing. So anything was said, and they said they weren't gonna answer questions, so that's what we had at that public meeting. And I did read the transcripts, people did ask about a fence or whatever, but when you answered it on June 3rd, whomever, I'm not saying that's for you, and there was no fence mentioned, and no specific, it was just general answers, okay? And on the 13th of July of 22, you had some nice pictures of the new High ones, and then there was a next one, you had a video of a meeting that appeared to be between the county commissioners and the school itself. It said 2 years ago, so I assume that was May of 2023. Now, in August, now this is where it starts to get convoluted. You had a hearing back on May 16th, which you had to have, I guess, but there was another one that I don't understand. It was public hearing notice on August 29th, 2022. But I never saw, there was never a notice of the 16th meeting of May. I don't know if I'm getting you guys confused, but there was nothing to show me that. But so you had the meeting in May, but with no notice prior to that. You had a notice of August, but there's no notes to that effect anywhere in here. So there's nothing of that to show what happened on the 29th. So there's a little bit of, and it's very clear in Mass General laws of the certain dates, you have to hit them. If you don't, you're bounced. And so I'm not sure what, if they hit them or not, because I'm gonna say this is not a complete thing, but it seems to have some of the information. You did more updates on the 26th of July of '22, and you had the new approach photo on the 19th of August of '22, and then on the 7th of the public hearing, you had answers, but we still didn't see the public hearing. And they talked about the hayride and the trail and all that stuff. Moving on, you do have the letter, okay, that you got, that went in, you guys submitted on May 20th, I believe, 2022, to the state on an application for this, we'll call them the high ones. That sound about right?
I would have to check the precise date.
Well, that was what you had. Okay, that's what you sent to us. All right. Well, what was interesting is that was right after your meeting on the 16th. So it was already, there was something new. But if you read the letter, what we have not, well, I'll keep going before I get into that piece. You submitted on, here it is, May 13th, 2022. You got their response on October 11th, 23. And they said in the letter, this is a predetermination, not final. One of the things I did read, it says this is for 61A land. The county is certainly not on the 61A land. And they referenced CMR, or 225 CMR, whatever, I think it's 71 something. They talked about you gotta have a PE for your performance. One of the things they talked about I found very interesting is this was for fields only. And they only wanted to do minor smoothing. Okay? So what they're saying is, I understand it's for farmers, and that's what they want. So, and we also know that there's more money involved in doing it this way. So your project it couldn't go in the woods as you had originally, because you can't do that and do this program. Do you agree?
We can't put it in the woods and.
The SMART program with these high ones for agriculture, it says very clear in the thing that you can't cut trees, you can only mother, you're gonna do it on an existing field.
They had modified that subsequent to our applying.
I didn't see it, but I'm reading, this is right from the state CMR.
The current regulation, you're correct, does talk about the tree clearing.
So-
But for all projects that were submitted prior to that point, they were grandfathered.
So you do agree you couldn't do this project in the woods?
No, we can do this project in the woods.
Well, then how come they didn't update the CMR?
This project involves tree clearing. And so they've approved it with that.
Okay.
And when it was originally submitted, there was there was no restriction on tree clearing.
Well, what I read was very simple. It had to be 61A, you had to have a PE, and only minor. They didn't want you cutting trees. Basically, what this was for, is to help a farm or whatever, under existing, so you're not killing the trees. And that's what it still says, so I'm not,
The current regulation states that. But once again, regulations change at a point in time, just as you guys know, because people submit plans prior to planning regulations changing. These plans and presentations were submitted prior to the regulation changing. When the regulation changed, they had a requirement that limited tree cutting, but because we had submitted prior to that and it was being assessed, we were grandfathered, so that doesn't apply to this project.
you're grandfathered for what? Not,
The requirement you were describing did not apply to this project. So if you're questioning whether or not this could have been built in amongst trees originally, it could originally under the rulemaking. This project is being built in a field. There is a small amount of tree clearing, but that has been approved.
well, I didn't see anything to what it told
I
me.
don't think they're referencing the old regulation there. I think you may-
I'm referencing the old?
No, I don't think they are. They're referencing the regulation as it stands, but we were grandfathered.
Well, all I know is I Googled up, very easy, come right to the Mass General laws and all that. So that's what it said. They want it on a farm. But the most interesting thing of this is what they come back and this is where I'm gonna need you guys to answer, is, where'd it go? on October 11th, 23, you got a response. And what it said, and that's what you gave us, so that's what was in there, and it says this is a predetermination, not final.
Right.
So what we have now is this is not final.
No, so.
Is it, no, it's kind of a yes or no. Is this final? Do you have a final approval?
The SMART program, sorry, you have to understand the context for me to actually answer that, so let me answer it with the context. The SMART program involves approvals of a statement of qualification. Those approvals occur once it is built and you submit the as-built plans. Prior to that point, you have a preliminary approval.
Well,
This is their predetermination that says that based on the review of our plan sets and the material we've presented, that we are good to go forward and build it.
it doesn't say that.
I'm trying to explain to you the program. You can question me and whether I'm being accurate, but you can also look at the regulations.
I read the letter, and the letter said,
The regulations require that you go through a predetermination process. When you pass the predetermination process, then we can go and build, and we can present the project, and if we present it relatively unchanged, then we get assessed and we get a final qualification. That is the requirement of all solar projects under the SMART program.
well, to me, I'm a simpleton when it comes, when someone says it's not final, to me, you don't have a final plan. It was a bunch of hoops.
Well,
Now, this was back.
when you issue a building permit, you don't close the building permit until the project is built and you confirm they built it the way that you had intended. So building permits, electrical permits are based on a plan set. You have a preliminary approval effectively to build, but you don't get your occupancy certificate until they come out and they check and they say you built what you said you were going to build. The final qualification is the equivalent of an occupancy
Okay.
certificate. Once you've built it, they come out and they check it and they give you the final. You cannot get a final determination until you've built it.
I'm well aware of the process. Been doing it for a few years.
Yeah.
But the way I look at this is a mall.
It's not a mall.
No, listen, hear me out. I'll give an example. This is a mall. Yeah, we're gonna build it like this, but the owner hasn't said what, if this is what he wants. We're approving a site plan. We're not approving, I don't care what they look like and the gizmos and the wiring. We're here to find out how far it is from here, what the layout is. That's what we're concerned about. And I don't see that here from the state that says you have an approval.
The letter that you have there actually defines the requirements that we had to meet. You'll notice that those requirements are all embodied in the plan set here, and they were embedded in the application that was provided in order to get that approval.
Well, this process is kept going, and you submitted back a long time ago.
The layout of this array is entirely consistent with what was submitted to the state, and we run the risk of them not approving it and of us not getting revenue from it if we don't build per the plans that they reviewed.
But if they come back and change the plans a little, that changes what we've approved. That's where I'm going with.
If they don't have any right to change it. Once we go before your building department and we get the plan sets approved, that's what we have to build. It's incumbent on us to ensure that we're meeting the requirements of this permit that the state issued, or this predetermination that the state issued.
Well,
So in the same way that if you build a mall and you don't comply with state code and you don't comply with the building plans that you put forward, you won't get your certificate of occupancy. If we don't comply with what they've approved, generally, the conditions, then we won't get the final certificate that allows us to get our incentives.
the way I read it with a site plan is if you're gonna build a mall, and you say it's gonna be 100,000 feet, you go out and build 200,000 feet, that affects us, because now you've changed the site. That's where I'm going with this.
But we can't change.
That letter to me didn't say any of that. It just said, right out, this is a predetermination, not a final approval. Done.
But you are approving the site plan, and the site plan is based on a design that they have approved.
I haven't, but there's nothing in that letter that even reflects we have a say in this or how it goes. The other thing is, October 11th, 2023. Nothing's gone on since then? They go to sleep or what?
We've been going through the ANRAD determination for the site, the Conservation Committee hearing for the site, which occurred some time ago, and then we moved to this.
Yeah, but there's nothing updated from the state. This has just sat there in Boston since October 23.
No, we've engaged with the state on all of that.
But all you've given us is a letter that says,
That's what you asked for. You asked for the predetermination letter that
I didn't ask for the predetermination, I asked for everything that you had. And this appeared to be on the website. I don't think you manipulated that website. I went to that Norfolk County website and boom, 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 boom. I didn't even know what, if it was predetermination, post-determination, whatever. Anything that I read, you guys gave to me. I didn't ask anything specific. So I'm looking at something that says it's preliminary.
It is the, okay, sorry.
We did tell you last meeting, Mr. Chairman, that it was a preliminary determination because that is what it is. I think perhaps we're getting a little far afield from the scope of the board's review, but if the board would like to condition the site plan approval upon receipt of the final DEO
I'll stop you right there.
approval.
I'll stop you right there. We determine what we have for scope, not necessarily you. I don't have a plan that tells me, is this gonna, what's be built? If it's 6 inches. We had a situation where a guy added a little cash thing on his what do you call it, car wash, and he came back. All right? So basically, we're approving, you want us to approve what's here, but we don't know if it's ever gonna be built to look exactly like that. There's no guarantee.
But doesn't it have to be, Jack, if we approve the plan?
Correct.
No, because the state can screw around with the solar arrays.
No, the state cannot change the approved building.
If I might
Yeah,
step in
sorry.
here. I'm Andrew Bernstein from Kearsarge. We built 68 solar. Every single array we built follows the same procedures with the state in the SMART program. We get preliminary statement of qualifications, whether it's a ground-mounted array, whether it's a rooftop or a parking lot canopy. That's the way the state procedure works. They come back and we basically say, we built what we said we were gonna build, that it's an agriculture array. And we said we built it. The requirements are on the size that we've been approved for. They reserve a place in the program because there's only so much they give out. That's what this program does. And every single one's done the same way. They can't come back and say, if we built it smaller, we would still have a qualification. We just can't build it bigger. That's what this is. It's purely done on size. We say we'd like to get into it. Here's how many megawatts are left in the program, and then they reserve a place for us. That's what this is done. Nothing more than that. They can't come back and say, you need to make it purple, green, smaller, higher. They don't look at that. They say, have you built an agricultural solar array with the definitions of our plan that you applied for? Sorry, and that's what we've done. And that's how every single one works. Having built 68 across our whole program, but as the other agricultural solar arrays that have been built in the state, exact same way.
Okay, understood. You've said this, I'm dealing myself with a letter that says it's preliminary, not a final approval, so.
That's
what
fair
I
enough, but that's exactly what they give you. You cannot get, as Dan said, a final until you come back, and the reason why you can't get that is they want to see with an as-built plan that you built it to this size, because that's what they're giving you permission
Well,
for.
everything you say, could make sense, except that would have been nice to be in the letter, but it's not there.
I'd be happy to show you the list. It's never there. They give you a preliminary statement of qualifications, and they say, this is how much you're available to be in this. And they can't come back and change anything else.
Well, once again, you read the letter, and I just read what it says, this is preliminary, not final approval, and you get all this stuff to do, and it, nowhere it says any of what you're saying, okay? If it did, I would be say, okay, understood.
I can't change what the state gives us. I can tell you that every single time, the thousands of solar arrays that have been built in the state, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, follow the exact same process.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that this, you're already approved. They can't change this at all, not one iota. Not
they
one, they can't move anything.
can't-
They can't add anything, they can't take out anything, they can't make it bigger, they can't make it, they can't change anything on that site plan. So what you're saying is this.
They're not approving a site plan at all. What they're approving is the size and a
No, I
preliminary
understand,
qualification to go into
but if
the
they come
program.
back and they got their little minions that do this stuff, so
Yeah.
so you're telling me this thing is, we could set it in stone, and everything on this plan will never, ever change once the state gets involved.
They're not approving the plan.
Oh, okay, just, could you answer that? That they're not gonna go, move it a little,
They
juggle this?
can't, absolutely, they cannot, they've never told us, you need to move it, you need to do this.
Okay.
All they tell us is size.
Okay, I understand, you say they never, fine, but they can. There is a potential.
They can't.
Okay, could you?
They have no control.
Do you have a
This is not
law
what
that
they-
says they can't touch this once it's like this? Do you have something that says you're
Can't
done?
touch? I'm not sure I
They
understand.
can't move, they have no input?
I think you're confusing two things. One is an incentive program.
Yeah,
Okay, so that would be like any developer applying for any incentive, you may have a low-income incentive the state has.
Right.
Right? So we apply to an incentive program, and they've said, if you come back and you can show us that you complied with the requirements of that program, then you will get that incentive. If we come back and we don't comply with what they said in their letter, then we don't get the incentive. In terms of what we build, they don't govern what we build. We can build it this way, go back and show them that we've complied. If we build it at 3 feet and go back, they'll say, right, you built it at 3 feet, you don't get into the program. We're not, as long as it was approved by you and approved by the building department, we don't have to tear it down, but we're not in the program. So this has been approved as part of the state smart incentive solar program based on certain criteria that are listed in the letter. And as long as we comply with those criteria, and in fact, as long as we comply with the plan sets, largely that we provided to as part of this permit approval process,
well,
then they'll give us, and that's why it's not a final, because they understand that through this process, for instance, you'll want to make slight changes. Through the building permitting process, there may need to be adjustments made. So what they're basically saying is that based on what we presented, that we would qualify for the incentive and for the program, and then we have to go back at the end and show them our as-built, and then they will say, yes, you met the criteria. If we don't meet the criteria, we don't get the incentive, but they don't have any say whatsoever on what we build.
okay, so what you're saying, that letter makes no difference to us.
And that's why it wasn't presented originally, because all it relates to is the business program that we're participating in and the state program that we're participating in that provides revenue for this project.
Okay, but I'm sitting here, you're not gonna change my mind, is the fact that it says it's preliminary and not a final approval.
I think you will find that and you know this because you're a developer and you're experienced, but you won't get your final certificate of occupancy before you built it and you have estimates.
I understand, but when you go back to anything, your determination, it's even doing like a 40B, you go back to the state, they do have a little thing back and forth. Oh, yeah.
But they're not governing, they're not, sorry.
And I would just add, Mr. Chairman, that like with the 40B process, if you go to the state, you make changes, you have to go back to the town and get approval. So if this plan changes, we would have to come back for site plan review because you are approving a plan. That's what we're committing to
But,
permit and
okay,
build.
all right, think about, I'm gonna be very simple on this. You're asking me to approve a plan that isn't approved by the state that has a potential to be approved, is what you just said, so why would I do that? That's all.
No, the
They
state's not
can't.
approving this plan.
Oh, well, you just keep saying that, but why would why am I taking a risk? I mean,
The state has issued guidelines.
I understand the
Along the
guy,
lines of any building guidelines, right?
But-
And we come before you with a site plan. We then go to your building department with a set of building plans.
no, I understand the
right?
process.
And then they judge those against the code, right? In the same way, the state, once we come back to them with an as-built, reviews our as-built project against the requirements that they've created. Okay, and then they determine whether or not we get accepted into this revenue program. They're completely separate processes. That's why it wasn't submitted as part of the original package, because how we are paid by the state through the program is a separate process. What was questioned originally was why we had to have it built at that height. And there is a business imperative for us that we build it to the guidelines, to meet the guidelines.
Oh, I
that this
understand the
revenue program
guidelines.
has. And so I think we're
You're not-
mixing two different things. Once you've approved the site plan, then that's what we go to the building department with. We go there and they look at the site plan, they'll assess what we put in front of them. If we change anything related to the site plan, we have to come back.
Yep.
Well, you know, I keep reading all this stuff, and it said 61A. This is certainly not 61A land.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that the revenue program that we're enrolled in, I think we take the risk on that. What the planning board is looking at is this layout. And just as you would with any other development, it could be a horse barn, it could be anything.
But Dan, your point, the 61A, the program changed. We went in just as the way building codes change. When we went in for that program, it was something different. What you're talking about in 61A is if you wanted to start a new agricultural solar array, then you'd have those requirements. That's why we got the preliminary statement of qualifications.
It locks it in.
Right, because it was under different requirements.
So you're-
But a new preliminary statement of qualification would say you can't do it on prime farmland.
So
That's just the way the program's
So
evolved.
since spring of '22, this has all changed. You guys got into, you could have cut the trees, and you guys didn't have to be 61A, so all that has changed. So now you're gonna be 61A, you can't cut trees.
No, because we got a preliminary statement of qualifications under the old program. If we went in today as the way state laws changed, then we'd have to follow the new ones.
That's what I'm saying, but I'm reading back to 2022. And you guys were doing the low ones, and then you come with this one. So a lot's changed. It had to be 61A, and you couldn't cut trees. That's a lot of changes in less than 2 years.
The program certainly has changed. Absolutely agree with that.
I keep seeing and reading that. I'm only, remember, you guys gave me this stuff.
No, the
I'm
program has
uninventing
changed,
it.
but that's why we applied earlier. Were you going to say, Phil?
Well, if I had a guess, and this is my own hip shot, is someone discovered, hey, we can make some more money here, because in 2020, we're gonna put them on the ground, and all of a sudden, 2022,
Well-
hey, county,
But
let's do this program.
You're asking a very fair business question, but one of the trade-offs here is this is not as if Kearsarge is going to make more money. Kearsarge, what we're doing right now is we have to make them higher. We have more steel in the cost goes up, and then they give greater incentives because they want to encourage this.
No, I understand in your business, but someone's, like in anything, follow the money, someone's making more money. So if no one was, they wouldn't have moved it.
If steel prices were at 10% of the cost, you'd be absolutely right. But there's trade-offs with everything. When you put a solar array on a roof, it's more expensive than it's one on the ground. When you put it on a landfill, it's more
My
expensive.
point is, the gears were shifted in 2022 to, hey, let's do this and make more money. Yes, no?
It wasn't, excuse me, thank you.
Is it-
This was put in to answer the concerns of what the Aggie had said when we came out, and they said, we want to try to do something different. We met with the county, and we came up with a different program to preserve a field. Originally, this was going to be in the woods. And the Aggie said, no, we don't want it in the woods. If you put it on a field, we want to have a way we can preserve use of the field. So that's why we did it this way.
Yeah, but I see, what I'm saying is the delay of this was almost 2 years from the inception back in 2020, but regardless, I'm still stuck on, you know what I'm stuck on, so I only
All
went
right,
with what
that's
you
fine.
guys had, so. Now, anyone else before I turn out the audience?
Jack, one question. So is this really our purview? I mean, this is a state program, and,
Yeah? Yeah, well,
you know, they're here with a site plan review, which is
yeah, I understand,
self-contained.
I understand. Yeah. They're telling us they can't change it. I don't have any evidence that says they can't. Would you approve a mall that the owner's gonna change it later on down the road? No.
I think we're complying with all of the regulations that you have in your bylaw in terms of height. We have more than the required setback.
I don't disagree, but I have a piece of paper in front of me that says, this is not final.
But the piece of paper you have in front of you is no different to a contract that a potential developer would have with a potential customer. And I don't think that you ask your developers that come before you to walk you through their business model and explain to you the contracts they have with third parties.
No, but I'm dealing with a site plan, and we're saying it's a building, and if the building could be changed by the owner, and this is not final, because when you bring in front of us a site plan, it's this, done, and there's no, well, the owner might change it somewhere down the road.
Is there an
But,
example?
excuse me one second. So this is no different than the North Street. We had the exact same thing for North Street that was approved. It was a preliminary statement of qualifications. You can get, with projects like this, you can actually say, we're going to have all the offtake go to low and moderate income. And you get a preliminary statement of qualifications until the final project is built, and then you submit to DOER. This is for us, this is submitting to DOER to say, you will give you the qualifications that you applied for. And it's based on, did you meet these, have you built an agricultural ag solar array? And these requirements. And that's what the preliminary statement, that's how the process works. But they don't come back. The town is basically saying, we won't give you a CO unless you build to what you submitted to us. It's that simple.
Yeah, and in the meantime, what would happen is, let's say you'd have to come back through here, so you kind of, it's kind of the old saying is, don't ever ask, always beg forgiveness rather than asking for it.
We can't.
So, sorry, the state, as you know, from a planning board approval standpoint, you understand the laws of the state and the rulemaking or the decision-making ability you have, and I think you know that a revenue program team at state can't turn around and instruct the planning board of Walpole or the building department of Walpole to allow us to do something
20.07.
that isn't under code. So this is being presented it would present to the building department and will comply with all the state and federal regulations from a fire and electrical standpoint and building codes. That's the governing authority on what's built.
Yeah, no, I understand the whole
It's a
process.
requirement. So what you're referencing is if we were to build a pool with the intent of having a business that teaches kids how to swim, right? And what you're saying is, you're coming back to me and telling me that you can't not build a pool. It's because, well, the business I'm looking to put in place is a business that trains kids to swim. So I guess what you're saying is that that's an unusual thing. I think it's perfectly normal for us to tell you that for this particular business, we need to meet these requirements. Teaching kids how to swim, the requirement is that you actually have a pool. Having an agricultural solar array, the requirement is that we build it per the state reg.
But what I'm,
You still govern the site plan and the building requirements for that pool, and you govern it with this as well.
well, like I said, I'm still looking at, I have a letter that says this isn't
Yeah,
final.
but the letter is talking about a revenue program. It's not telling you that you have to approve anything. What we're telling you is that the program that we have been approved for, the revenue basis for this particular project is a program that has certain requirements that fit within your zoning ordinances. Okay, they fit within the 15 foot height. We've got the setbacks.
Yeah, I understand.
But yeah.
But so you're 100% guaranteed, put $500,000 on it, that they won't move it 1 inch?
I 100% guarantee they
cannot.
won't move it. They cannot do
They
it.
cannot.
The Commonwealth has no right. They've never told us we can move. They don't have that right. What they have the right to say is, this is the size of the project. This is the maximum size. If you build a smaller one, we're in the program. We cannot build it any larger than what's been approved,
All right,
and as long as we meet the qualifications
All
of
right,
an
I'm not
ag
gonna-
solar.
Not gonna beat it to death
Okay, so.
yet. No, I'm not, but you guys have something that could assure me, other than,
Well, state regulations.
no, but you have something you can show written, that's all.
But when you approve any other site plan,
Yeah.
it's the same
Wait a
set of
minute.
laws governing that. I mean, the counterparty on any of the other site plans you review has no right to come in and say, you changed that site plan, I'm overriding the planning board because, I'm your contracting partner.
Well, I'll give you a prime example. You do it on Mass Highway, and they're showing the entrance here, because everything works, then they go down to District 5, and it's, no, you're gonna move it over here. They've done that. Then they gotta come back.
But we can, as a
But come back
condition, we
here.
can guarantee.
Yeah, but we would have to come back. It's just, yeah, they.
We can't, we
Understand,
have to go
but
come
I'm
to you.
saying, but we were approving a plan. They moved it. Here, we don't have a plan of what the array, but whatever.
So if-
I'd be, Phil, you know, you can, if you wanna go down
No, no, well,
this side, but.
I'm just looking at the process.
I have a letter, and I heard a lot of verbal stuff. I'm not saying yes or no to it, but if you have something that shows, hey, this is how it goes,
I don't
then
think
I'd
this
be
is-
convinced,
I
that's
don't
all.
think this is the purview of our site plan review. I mean, if they don't get qualified, that's their problem at the other end. They can't build anything other than what we approve.
No,
And if they want to change it,
Phil, I've been doing this for a long, long time, and if I get a letter that says this is not the final plan, and I'm looking at the array, and I don't know your business, I understand,
that's
but you,
pre-qualification. It's a pre-qualification to be in the SMART program, which has nothing to do with how it's laid out on the site. They're just
that's
looking
all I'm
for.
looking at, so, that's, you understand where I'm coming from.
Well,
I don't think it's too hard
Never
to,
endorsed it.
well, I think
written
this-
documentation or something to that effect would be.
I think this is like really not, I don't think it's part of the process.
Phil, one man, one vote.
Well, I'm just
One
telling you
man,
my
one
thought.
vote. You got mine, you know where I am. And I don't hold anything up if they convince me. I mean, I'm not unconvinced, but I just,
I mean, I think we haven't done this for any other projects.
we have,
Well, we had the North Street, nobody said boo about it.
No, that's not true.
let's go.
Not about the qualification of the plan, but the issue we're talking about
Okay, so
here.
Phil, if,
Yes.
I'm a volunteer. I found this myself. We don't even have a freaking plan up. And because I missed that, this should go? No, absolutely not. Don't think, two wrongs don't make a right, okay? That's all. But what I want is just give me something. That's all. I'm very reasonable. I don't doubt what you said.
I don't
I don't
think
know all this programs, but if it is, it's pretty bang. That way, if you come back someday and you do change it a little bit, you say, we had to because of the state, and it makes it easier going. Right?
Well, we don't have to, no, if they came back and we didn't approve it, they would be the ones that would
No,
lose
what I'm
out.
saying is, where I'm going with this, if you get me convinced with a letter that says, yeah, and then the state, and I say, yeah, okay, I'm with you now, and then they tickle something later on, you go, look at what they did to us. You're probably more inclined here as a board saying, okay, it wasn't you guys that did it, the state, and you say, okay, you get more favorable, you're not following.
But I can't, you can't give me, if I come back and change something, your building inspector is gonna sign off on the COC, will not give it to me. Said, you didn't build it per the plan.
No, what will happen is you'd have to come back here for modification.
Correct.
And I'm saying, coming
Right.
back for modification, if you guys did it yourself, I'm not gonna be as pleasant as if, look what the
That's-
state made us. That's all I'm saying.
That's completely fair.
That's all, and I'm just
That's
looking to be
completely
convinced,
fair.
that's all.
So what I'm hearing is that all along the neighbors said, you know, don't make it so high. And the reason you're making it high is because of the agriculture program. And what I'm hearing is that, based on the conversation between Jack and yourselves, that you have to build it before you know if you even get the financial incentive from the agricultural program. So it is very, you know, dispute me if I'm wrong, but you could go ahead and build it this high for no reason. You could build it this high and then not receive the final approval. That's what you said. They could come out, nothing, that's not.
We can't-
That part of it's not guaranteed. So you have to build it before you find out if it's guaranteed?
We build it per the requirements.
Right.
They've taken a preliminary look at this and said, yes, if you build it for all of these criteria per our program, which was written down for the qualifications to get into the SMART program, you will get this. So when we build it, we'll come back, and if we build, and if something changes and we're not part of it, we won't get an incentive, and then we won't be able to operate the project, because we can't be in the SMART program. We can't suddenly say, oh, we'll do something else.
So if you can't operate the project, but it already exists, it's built.
Yeah? So we wouldn't be putting up the project if we didn't follow qualifications. That wouldn't be obviously a smart business mode. We put up a decommissioning assurance so that if it's not operating, it's taken down. It's that simple.
If it doesn't operate, it has to be
Yeah,
taken
I
down.
mean, it's okay.
No, but you're not following what I'm saying. So you could build it, you could still operate it, but you might not qualify for the financial
We can't
incentive.
operate. We can't operate it because you have to be in an incentive program in the state. The way it works through the utilities, we have to be in the incentive program. We can't just build a solar array and try to sell the power. It's not approved. Before, the way you get into the SMART program, we not only go back to the state, we have to get approval from Eversource. In this case, the local utility. So we can't operate it. I
You
can't
have-
put a
But
project.
But you
you have
build
the
it before
permission
you
from
get those
Eversource.
approvals?
Sorry?
You have permission from Eversource.
Right,
Yes,
correct.
you already have the.
Right,
they're
but
gonna-
we have permission from Eversource at this size, but the final approval to be in the SMART program, Eversource will then sign off again and say, you did what you said you were going to do, you built it at this size, and then we'll take that, go back to the SMART program. We've done these literally dozens of times in the state. We go back and we say, here's the as-built plan, as Dan mentioned. We built the project, we hit the qualifications, and here's the size. Because this is a financial incentive, that's what the SMART program is saying.
And do you have any reason to think you won't get the final approval?
No, you get it every time.
Right, but since in recent months, there's been a lot of criticism of the SMART program. There's been a lot of problems with people's utility bills. There've been a lot of, so it has been taking a hit, the program.
So
And-
the people's
yeah.
utility bills have nothing to do with the SMART program. I just spoke to Mike Judge, who's the undersecretary for energy, and that's a completely different issue. And some of the incentives which they're looking at, one of the ones is where they're coming and giving you funds to go have your home insulated, things like that. They're going to change that. But this is not something that they're coming back and saying the SMART program. They're coming out with a new SMART program because they only have so much room for SMART. There's what was called SMART 1, SMART 2, and now they're coming out with SMART 3, which will be a different program, different requirements. You'll have a different assurance program. You'll go in and get a preliminary statement of qualification to get into that program, just the way we're into this program. So they're changing things. And the cost of power ultimately, well, we don't want to get into this, but this is a saver, and that's why the Commonwealth has been doing it in the long run. And the costs that are socialized are some of the costs they spread across. So that's what's happening right now. And the cost of home energy, one of the big issues right now, I mean, I think I'm getting off the subject a bit, but it's the cost of the infrastructure. So in this case, Kearsarge is paying for the cost to upgrade the substation. This doesn't get to anyone else. We pay it directly. So this is why the Commonwealth pushes some projects like these, because they know that developers, will pay for the infrastructure improvements.
Jack, can I ask a question? But I, just because I'm just trying to get my timelines. Is the height and size of the panels something to do with the qualifications of the SMART program?
Correct.
Okay. And was that something that has changed, that you must use these panels, or was that, I mean, when was the SMART, let me even go back, when was the SMART program created? Do you know, roughly?
I think the SMART program was created in 2016.
All right, 2016, so you're well past that, okay. And do you know when that qualification changed of the size of the panel for this particular?
Well, it's not the size of the panel, it's the height and agricultural solar. You can build, it's a bit of, I mean, panels, the wattage of panels, you could have a 600-watt panel that could be the same size as a 300-watt panel. You could have one that's slightly larger. So that's not the issue. The issue, what they're doing in the program, is they're saying how much DC output you can put onto the grid, because that's the way they calculate, because they don't want too much to go on, because that's per Kate's point, that will cost too much money. So they limit the size of each of these incentive programs, and that's what they do.
But, okay, but the height, right, of which these are gonna stand, okay? Again, is that a requirement of this smart program?
Right.
It is, okay, and was that something that has changed since its inception of 2016?
I don't think the height has
The
changed.
height requirement for the agricultural solar arrays hasn't changed, no.
Has not changed. So 2016, they said they had to build it this high off the ground.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so each different class of solar has its own requirements, and the agricultural solar array requirement was that it be built with a certain clearance above the ground. And then in order to get the pre-qualification letter, you had to demonstrate, over and above that, you had to demonstrate that the farming practices could operate underneath it. So the letter identifies the minimum requirements that we had to meet. And then they reviewed that, and they reviewed a report of the farm machinery and how the farming is done, and that's what led them to, you know, back and forth, ultimately give us pre-qualification.
you could make them a lot higher,
Yeah.
but there's reasons you won't want to do it because of safety, wind shear, but the big reason is cost. You don't want to make them too high.
Right.
Because it's too much steel
Well, again,
and structure.
I think we, you know, we have two cases that we're, again, trying to listen to, right? Is aesthetics and the chance of fire in hay, you know, or the heat in hay, you know, in a field, okay? And, you know, one of my things is, again, just asking questions about just
Sure.
when, you know, you're adhering to a program, okay, I get that. And the size, you know, the distance off the ground, right? Because, I mean, let's just put it this way. If they were small little panels that ran low to the ground, let's just say, right, not even worry, I understand about height, and you can get underneath there, but there were small little panels, they went low across the ground. There was no hay underneath, no worries about like this. Is it as a big of an issue aesthetically, you know, if it sits out in a field? Maybe not, right? Because if you don't see them, if you drive by this field and you don't see them, then nobody's going to complain.
So you're bringing up two good issues. One is aesthetics and one is fire safety.
Right.
In terms of the fire safety in the code, you could argue that these are safer because they're higher off the ground and they're farther away from anything. I mean, panels don't catch on fire. They're glass and steel.
I was
and there's
concerned
not
about
a lot.
I was concerned
Yeah.
about how flammable hay can be.
How flammable, sorry?
Hay, right?
Hay.
Hay, right? This
But
is
we have grass, every single solar array is required to put some sort of ground cover around it. So for our other arrays,
Yeah.
we'll plant all sorts of different pollinator seeds, and they'll grow up, and you'll see them, they'll be over the panels at times when they grow too quickly.
Sure.
And there's absolutely zero fire danger.
All right, but, so now riddle me this. I thought that the whole idea was this was going into a haying field, right? And hay was going to be underneath
This
this.
allows you, because of the height.
Yeah.
We can then, but there are other crops as well. Hay's the first crop. In some cases, they're actually growing other things, asparagus, and, what'd you say?
Broccoli.
Broccoli
asparagus,
is
Yeah.
growing under as well.
Sure.
So they're putting different things.
Yeah.
So this is a program, and it's not just being done in Massachusetts.
Listen,
Right,
we're only
right,
here,
but
we're
so-
only adhering to panels in Walpole.
But absolutely. So there's really, and the fire chief and where we've done them,
Yeah.
there's no increased fire risk from doing an ag solar array.
But, okay, but how many, now let's go back to outside of Walpole. How many do you know that have hay in these panels? I understand we have a list of solar parks, but do we have, are these all the same exactly what you're building and have hay underneath them?
I don't know off the top of my head how many have hay, how many have, but actually, I would say most of them have started with hay and grass as part of it. But the question is this how high you let them grow?
Okay.
So you can cut them, and then with this farm program, we're actually required to maintain it at a much stricter level than we are. No one tells us with our other arrays that we have to cut down grass.
Who will be responsible for this?
We are.
Kearsarge has to hay, you have to hay, you have to crop, or what, again, I'm sorry,
No, so Kearsarge is working with the Aggie farm team, and the farm team will be haying based on a program. There was a farm plan that was developed for this, that was provided to DOER and as part of the pre-qualification. So they'll be working to that farm plan. As I said, they're out there, for instance, next week. The plan is to be out there next week. That's why they had us take down the models to hay the field.
but let's just, all right, so Dan, let's just say, okay, that they're working with you in partnership, okay? But they don't uphold their end of the bargain. They don't, I mean, they say, they give you the program, wonderful, but you guys are not gonna be out there daily, weekly, to see if they're actually, taking care. So they miss a month.
But the haying doesn't occur every month. The haying
Okay,
is
I don't know.
two to
Yeah.
3 times per year, and
Yeah.
the height of the growth, for instance,
Yeah.
now is about 12 to 16 inches.
So if it grows too high against the panels, we're gonna not get the same insulation from the sun.
But this is 11 feet.
Right.
The pivot point's 11 feet in the air, the
So-
lower edge of the panel's 8 feet.
So the hay, it won't grow that high.
The farm plan, for us to get the incentive, we have to hay the field. So
Right.
whether the Aggie does it, if the Aggie wasn't doing it, then we would have to step in and employ a third-party farm manager to do it, and other projects in Massachusetts.
And we submit to, how, do we
To
submit?
DOER, we submit
Right,
to DOER.
we have to submit a plan saying that under the penalty of perjury, this is being hayed per, or, what we've agreed to.
And don't you have to report every year?
Sorry?
Don't you have to report every year?
Yes,
How much-
we
how
have to
much
report
hay?
every year, so that's why I say we're
I'm
responsible.
saying,
Yeah.
but how much responsibility do they have in this if something was to
They would cut our incentives. They would cut us out of the program.
No, that's not what I asked.
Oh,
If
sorry.
something happened due to this solar park and hay and, okay, we'll talk about the fires, yeah, okay?
Sure.
Something did spark, right?
Yeah.
Because of the panel or not, who would somebody go to? Would they go to Kearsarge? Do you hold 100%?
We go to us. We carry full insurance.
Okay.
We have to. We have everything.
So the Aggies waived, so the Aggie is working with you, but they have no part in
Full
this.
responsibility. We carry the insurance, and we'll bring on debt on this, and the banks wouldn't even touch this unless we have full liability, indemnification, builder's risk, everything you'd expect.
I don't want to get out of our purview either, I'm
But that's a fair
not shaking
question.
you down, but
No,
I'm
it's a
just,
fair question.
but I'm trying to,
No,
again,
no, it's a fair question,
piece-
yeah.
piece it together here in my head of saying, hey, if something was, I know the
Sure.
intention is not to have anything happen, report yearly. I
Right.
don't know farming, I wish I did, but I don't. But, but you're picking up 100%.
The buck stops with us, absolutely, because we get kicked out of the program. And every year we have to submit, and it's me as the CEO of the company and owner, it's my responsibility. And we have to submit every year for these programs to say we're doing what we said we're doing. And if we're not, we lose all incentives and we make zero revenue. And then we're liable to the banks and everyone else who's funded it.
Okay.
You all set, Paul?
Yes,
All right,
thanks, Jeff.
before I turn it over, I got quick questions. It'll be easy, I hope. I grow grass. I sprinkle grass. I fertilize grass. But I don't have what doesn't grow good in shade. What's under shade? How does this even work? You got special grass underneath where the panels are? It's the same thing with your grown broccoli. You're gonna have a panel like this, you're gonna have all these,
Yeah,
how does that work?
So as part of the farm plan that was approved, and working with the MDR and UMass, they identified certain species of grass that they believe would perform.
So you're gonna replant the grass when you're done?
That are working right now in other
Yeah,
facilities.
There'll be overseeding, but we're not removing the existing hay.
Okay, so you're overseeing with the grass that's supposed to grow under these panels?
Correct. And the grass, unfortunately for us on other projects, grows quite handily under the existing panels. These are
Okay.
These are tracking panels to increase the sun exposure, so there's absolutely no question of the grass and growth.
So I assume you have no intention of, no need to sprinkle this, irrigate it?
No, it would be irrigated in the way it's being irrigated right now.
So there must be something to look at when you have grown broccoli. How the hell they do that?
I can't,
Yeah,
I think this is something that's advancing. In Europe, for what it's worth, they have much more advanced solar agricultural arrays.
Yeah, well, what I think here is, I'm calling for what it is. Grow hay under it, and everybody's gonna make some money off of this. It's a big game, all right? We're not preserving the farmer. We're giving him an incentive to turn over his tomatoes and make hay, and he can make money. But that's,
No, I do want to say though, Jack, because
Phil,
I did a lot of research, and I think it's important to say what's happening. So if you look at UMass Amherst, they have a big initiative because this is actually allows farmers to have extra income and still have cropland, because farmers are being pressured by economically, as we know that. So if you drive around a lot of places, you'll see a lot of solar fields out there. So UMass and Cornell are two of the colleges which are doing a lot of research in agriculture solar, and it turns out that actually you have to have 50% sun. You can't have less than 50%, which is why the panels are movable. And
okay.
the grass actually does better some of the time in the shade because
Depends
it
on the
gets so
grass,
hot.
we're going off.
We're building a new array in Vermont that will actually have cows grazing within the arrays.
So you cook them while they're under grazing?
We can't get a temperature.
Go out with a hamburger bun, come here, cow.
Put your hand on a panel, I've done it during the day, and you're not gonna burn yourself.
Well, you did, it was brought up at North Street about how hot they got, and then the guys kind of retracted off of that, around 90-something
I
degrees. but-
don't,
But to Phil's point, this is intended to help farmers who need financial assistance. This is helping a corporation to make money.
I can
Well,
tell
it's
you,
not- they're-
one quick side story in
It's not
Great
helping the farmers
Barrington.
in Walpole, Massachusetts.
Bob Coons had a farm, and by us putting up solar,
They're taking
and he is a
Right,
testimony.
and they should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
It should
All
be
right.
helping the farmers.
I just
It
wanted to
shouldn't be
know
helping
about-
the
It's
private
fair, but
corporation.
it saved his farm.
You see what I mean?
So they're trying to
Phil?
put
Well, the
this
reason-
policy.
Yeah, no, I don't agree.
Well, I
That's-
just want to make,
Okay, Phil.
well, but Katie raised the issue that the corporations are making money. So the reasons why farmers go to a third party is because of the capital investment it takes to build the solar arrays.
But there are no farmers
I
here.
think.
Okay,
no,
we're
no, no.
going
Okay,
way
so-
off.
Yeah.
Well, but-
I don't want to be lectured on farmers anymore, because they're not farmers. All right, now, I hate, if I say it, everybody go, no, we don't want to speak. Okay, anybody wants to speak, come up, and you gotta, well, we gotta move that first.
Yes,
Name
we
and
do.
address for the record, and. what-
Maureen Briscoe, 8 Susan Drive.
Yep.
I wanted to address Mr. Smith's comment about, the fire department already said, if a fire starts, they can only contain it, they can't put it out. So containing it doesn't get you very far. They can't put it out. My husband's a firefighter in Boston. Same thing. You can't put these out. And one fire hydrant isn't gonna do anything. So that's one concern. Another concern I have is, we're in a very terrible budget. I work in public education. The Aggie's funding is getting cut, no doubt. So we're now throwing it on the Aggie, as they're saying they're gonna show up once a year. But the funding is getting cut. UMass Amherst is getting cut. Their farming program is getting cut. We are losing teachers, we are losing funding, and now Mara Haley is now putting hiring freeze, which now impacts everyone. So we're now entering during this, and there is no support for any of that. Great, it's for helping farmers, that's completely separate. We're at Norfolk Aggie, which is public. The other thing I wanted to address was Mr. Buckley. Mr. Buckley sat in multiple meetings at Norfolk Aggie, and I don't even think they were even on your little sheet. They should have been, they've been recorded. And we asked repeatedly how the community of Norfolk County Agricultural School felt about it. They said they asked around and people liked it. We asked for an official survey, and we never got a response. So now it's all of this, oh, we did this, we did that, we asked around. Mr. Buckley sat there, took notes, whatever. So when they were saying, oh, we all agreed to this, you can honestly say, we did not agree to this at all. We had Richard Stady come out to our neighborhood, and he even said it was very close. So there's a lot of nonsense and pocketing of money. And there's past, if you look further into the past, there has been employees of Norfolk Aggie that have lived in Sharon, who have come and taken that hay for their own farms. So you need to look further into this, but I think the safety part is really concerning because you can't put out the fire. And I'm glad you have insurance because you don't live in my house. And I'm wondering, when my house burns down, your insurance isn't covering that. Not even close. Agreed? Agreed? Your insurance isn't going to cover my house and all my neighbors.
I don't want my house to burn down.
Exactly. But it's going to cover your butt.
Why doesn't he answer your question?
I don't know.
No comment.
Oh, yes, thank you. Perfect. That's exactly what's expected. No comment. Yes, they do catch fire.
Easy, let's just, all right, just so you understand, I understand the fire, and you brought
Yep.
it before, and we have, myself,
I've reached out to,
and gone, and you've seen what we got back for that.
I agreed. And I don't understand how we can't have something that.
I don't disagree. And-
Okay, I
and-
just wanted, but it's only containment. And Mr. Buckley sat in all our meetings and at the Norfolk Aggie with the superintendent person that was there, and she didn't want it. So there's many pieces there, but once again, our crooked county, as we can see that's going on, is continuing here.
Okay. So, just so you understand, we did, everything was good in the fire.
No, I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Hello again, Anthony Frucci, Walden Drive. Got a few things to say, a lot of hoopla. But like the rest of the folks here, we'll stay consistent, unlike some others. I appreciate you doing your studies and research on the universities. There was one that you missed. I had sent information on the study that was done by University of Rhode Island on the impact of the homes within a 1 mile radius of a solar field and how property values drop by 10%. You didn't mention that. That impacts me and the rest of the folks in our community. Let's get back to safety.
Well,
Let's get back to safety. Appreciate the fence and the offer. 7 feet, I'd like to see it higher. If they're gonna install a fence, it should be as high as the paneling, and there should be some privacy screening in addition to the vegetation, because I don't wanna see a fence. I reached out to the chief of police, the fire. I got no response. But what I'd like to understand, and I'm sure others would, is how did they come up with the decision that this was a safe project? What was the criteria that was used to come to this conclusion? I'd like to see a plan from the fire department that shows how they're going to protect the surrounding area in the event of a fire. Homes, there's an 8-acre forest right next to the proposed project. If there's a spread, who stops that? Obviously, we've heard that they can only contain it or watch it burn, but it's a windy area. And as we all know, and we witnessed recently in California and Hawaii and other places, fire can spread pretty quickly. What type of equipment, what type of manpower, and what actual plan does the Walpole Fire Department have in place to protect the community surrounding this project? We talked about insurance and who might be responsible. There was mention of a bond. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see them present that bond coverage to the board. And I'd like to understand how much that is. I did a quick look at the map site. There's about 20 houses that surround just the perimeter of this project. That's a lot of money. Those houses burned, damaged, that's a lot of money. Who holds the bond? Is it Kearsarge? Is it the county? Is it the town of Walpole? Who's responsible for replacing and restoring the damaged property? And regarding heat from these panels, the study that I've done, they produce 800-degree temperatures at the surface of those panels.
800 degrees?
800 degrees. They're known to kill small birds and insects. Is that not true?
I'm not sure.
Is that not true?
I'm not-
Thank you.
No problem.
There's also glare that comes from those panels. How does that affect the surrounding homes? Am I going to be wearing sunglasses inside my home because of the glare that comes off of a panel? Or let alone 9 acres of it? Let's talk about health and environmental issues. Electronic magnetic frequency is a concern. There's a study that shows that there's symptoms that are caused from these solar fields. Headaches, fatigue, skin rashes, and in some cases they may cause cancer for folks living near these fields. Who's responsible for that? If someone gets sick or ill because of these panels, does Kearsarge have a bond for that? Does the county? Or we just have to live and deal with it ourselves? The last meeting we talked about noise. 60 to 70 decibels, I think, was mentioned. Is that one motor? How many motors are used to turn these panels throughout the day? As I mentioned, I work from home, and it was stated that 60 to 70 decibels is the sound of a washing machine or dishwasher. Again, I don't want to hear that. Now, if you add that times multiple hundreds of motors, that's a dull roar. So now I'm wearing sunglasses at home and earmuffs. How does that affect my sleep habits? It's ridiculous. What health effects does the noise have on people? I mentioned the others, but what type of effects does that have? Listen to a constant hum 7 days a week for 12 hours a day. It's ridiculous. Let's talk about the land impact. We talked about fire, but what about the toxic material that these panels contain? They're man-made. We're not perfect. There's faulty equipment. What happens if there is a fire? Animals can bite through these cables, causing a spark, causing a fire, so they do catch fire. What happens when these panels leak or there's fire? Who cleans up the land? Who's responsible for that? Do they have a bond for that? I'm sure they do. But now, what does that do to our community? Our land is now poisoned. There's talk of a battery storage plant. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but it's close to a creek. That creek feeds Walpole water supply. What happens if there's a leak? What happens if there's a fire? We now contaminate Walpole water. So not only are the people surrounding this area affected, the town's affected by this. Who cleans that up? Where do we get our water? Serious concerns. I'd like to see some sort of plan that shows that there's testing of the land. Who's to say that we can see a leak? And if these panels leak and there's a small drip of this toxic chemical into the land, How do we know that? Are we going to find out 20 years from now when they dismantle and realize the land's now contaminated and there's no use for it? I'd like to see them test the water as well while we're at it. At the end of the 20-year lease, what's the plan to reclaim the land and restore everything, as they say, back to its original state? Have we seen that plan? Does one exist? These are their words. I'd like to see it. Who's going to dispose of these panels? How are they going to be disposed? They're not dumping these panels in Walpole, are they? They're toxic. They can't be disposed of. They can't be recycled. So where do they go? You know, there's only one group that benefits from this, and they don't even live in Walpole. They're located outside of our town. And this is a pure profit grab to our detriment. And as far as the SMART program, we do pay for it. We do pay for it. We pay for it through our taxes as well, our energy bills and our taxes. The other day I was watching CNBC, and there was mention of a company. There was an individual that was being interviewed by the name of Jim Kearsarge, if I say it correctly. He's a managing partner of a firm called Keynotes. He's an investment manager who specializes in fundamental analysis and short selling companies. He's known for his short selling of Enron. And for those who don't know what short selling is, you bet against the company. He made a lot of money on Enron because he saw what was coming. He was speaking about a solar installer called Sunrun. And he highlighted that this company, as well as others, are not economically sound without government subsidies. So if those subsidies go away, and this company, like others, go bankrupt because the revenue dries up, are we stuck looking at a fence and 17-foot panels or 15-foot panels or whatever? Ridiculous. And then again, I mentioned the URI study. And Phil, I'm surprised you didn't bring it up. I sent it to you. I sent it to the board.
I looked at it.
And you didn't mention it.
I did.
Surprisingly. Again, it's a decrease in property value, up to 10% for surrounding homes within a 1-mile radius.
Yeah, and you know we have
So
others.
who recovers that? If I sell my property,
Well, I think there's a different opinion about that.
if I sell my property and my home value goes down, Phil, who covers that difference? Is it Kearsarge? Is it Norfolk County? Is it Walpole? Is it you? Who covers that? These are the things that need to be considered when making your decision. I'll just reiterate what I mentioned last time during this meeting, and there was a couple comments about DOER. There's a pending investigation. And I hope the board understands that. I understand that there's been information that was sent to the board regarding the findings. My final ask is that this project does not move forward until that investigation is closed. Thank you.
Okay, I have a few. All right, I'll give some answers real quick. All right, and I wrote them all down, what you were saying. Walden Drive, you indicated that you already studied, said you're gonna go 10% down, okay? Not that we sit here with our thumb somewhere. If you notice, this town, we had our own solar places where you could put them. Everywhere where it wouldn't affect people. Ain't us. We did our job. Your state, your people killed it. So we tried, and they just overrode us. Safety, I'm not, we are only a board. We don't control the fire department. if you really need answers, you need to go Tuesday night and see the Board of Selectmen, because they control them to get your answers. Don't come here. I have no power over them. The only power is if I call them up, my house is on fire, they'll come. But other than that, zero power. So your power to get these answers, you would have to do through the Board of Selectmen, because the fire department works for them. So that's the hammer you need, and I think you need to do that. You talked about the bond. The bond is only to dismantle, nothing else. So that 20 years from now, when this thing dies, they have enough money from the insurance bond to dismantle it. Doesn't cover anything else, okay? Let's see, as I'm going down, the noise, yeah, you indicated, I have as far as the battery storage, it's next to the creek. I assume conservation looked at this. We don't control where they put it, next to wetlands. If there is an issue, you might want to ask Concom how they did it or why they did it, if you feel that it's within the 100-foot or whatever it is. I do, and before I address Kearsarge, and what happens at the 20th year? What are they gonna do? I don't know, but it's a good question. If you're gonna plan something for 20 years, you should know what you're gonna do after it, and that would, I'd ask the Norfolk County to address that tonight. Recycling panels, I understand 100%, don't like this crap anyway, because it's subsidized, and it's a nationwide, it's a world problem. And the DOR investigation you sent to us has to do with the David Bacon Act and not paying prevailing wage, if I read that right, is that correct?
I believe that's one of them.
That's what I read, okay.
We're investigating.
Yeah, we can't comment on that. Now, you did have another one that has, well, it does have merit, but I guess I'd ask Kearsarge if they could answer it. Do you have anything on these panels that will tell you if this thing's fully charged, fully operating, or you know that something's not going, that potentially for a damage, leak, something happening?
We monitor these 24/7. There's nothing from the panels that leaks. We have from the companies we buy the panels from, there's no hazardous material. This is basically glass and steel. There's copper wires, the same wires that are throughout town. There's no danger. We built over existing wellheads, been approved. There's been no leakage from these panels. There's been no issues. In fact, we built a URI around some of the campuses and were approved by the university as well, and in neighborhoods. So, and this was, we built them over.
Okay, I understand, but the question was, you have monitoring, and it's, all right, you have a monitor, I know you can see how much juice is coming out of your thing. Do you have, if one of them, it's like a valve, when your valve goes, do you know if it's not working? Do you know which one?
Yeah, we have, through our equipment, we can monitor down to the panel and the string level, the inverter level.
So if there is something happening there, animal bites through, I assume you're not gonna use the wiring that, made out of, what do you call it, comes out of China. You're gonna use good wire. But you do have something, so you're gonna have a panel, your whole array, and it's gonna say, this one, something's up with it.
Well, one of the nice things about this is the inverters are actually suspended above in the air.
Well, I think that the question is it monitored, and you're monitoring, you say there's nothing there, but if the thing isn't working right, or something happened,
We also use, we use infrared drones, but we monitor this 24/7. We'll know exactly down at the panel level if there's a problem.
you'll know, you can identify which panel and you go look at it. All right, so that's the monitoring, but you're saying nothing's in there, but if something does happen, within a short time, someone would be out there to check it. Okay. The question, and I will, before you go, Sue, Mr. Buckley, why are you here? Bill, it was a good question. What's gonna happen in 20 years?
Through you, Mr. Chair, as part of the contract, there's a decommissioning bond that will be held by the county and the town. So in the event, I think as you talked about in previous meetings, if Kearsarge no longer exists as an entity, there will still be funding to decommission it.
Okay, but, all right, they got it for 20 years. It's over. What happens?
The county has the opportunity to buy the panels from Kearsarge and continue to operate them, or we can take them down.
So the county has no idea what they're gonna do.
I can't speak to what we will be doing in 20 years.
Well, someone might have, because you're certainly not gonna leave panels at 20 years old. So right now, it's
So
fair
they will
to
either
say,
be-
it's fair to say, the
They'll
county
either
doesn't
come
know what they're
down.
gonna do in 20 years.
Well, we may wish to continue those same panels in that same space, or we
Okay.
may take them down. Those are sort of the
All
two
right, so there is no
options.
game plan, we're gonna do this for 20 years and move on to something else and return it then?
I think, no, that because it's 20 years from now, I think we can't.
Yeah, I understand, but we have things called, big plans, and everybody says, well, we're gonna do in 20 years. So, yeah, we'll go 20 years, make some money, and then we'll put it back to where it was. That's not in the cards.
No, we're going to evaluate that closer to the end time.
Okay, so there's, okay. I think, hopefully I answered most of your questions, I don't know.
Well, just on that comment, originally, when they first presented it, it was, we were gonna return the land to its original state.
Okay.
So, again, a lot of wishy-washy stuff going around.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I may respond to that, I believe we said we have the capacity through the decommissioning bond to return the land to its original state, or it is within our contract with Kearsarge. We have the capacity to buy them and continue to operate them.
Okay. My own question, a quick one, I guess the county and Kearsarge, and it's not wishing you ill will. You guys go down the tubes, right? You're out, say, just like anything that happened to any of us. But the company, what are the provisions? Who picks it up from there? How does that work?
Yeah, Andy, you want to take that?
Yeah, that's,
We have
what's the
an-
continuance?
On every single project, we have an independent engineer who comes in and says, this is the amount based on the final plan that it's gonna cost in 20 years to decommission it. We put up an evergreen, either letter of credit or surety, that's in the name of the town and the name of the county. They can pull that money anytime. So if we're not there, there'll be the funds to decommission it.
Okay, but this is where I'm going with this. I'm not picking that you guys are going out tomorrow, but
No, it's
5
okay.
years from now,
Yeah.
world changes.
Yeah.
Kearsarge is gone. You guys are
Yeah.
floating on a boat, hopefully.
Yeah.
Would the county would be stupid to take them down at that point. What is the chain of command after that?
So we will have debt. Under our agreement with the banks, they can step in and run them. Or they can use the decommissioning bond.
Okay.
It can be pulled anytime.
All right, but here's what I'm thinking of, and it was mentioned, I'll have to bring it up, is if you do go under,
Yeah, sure.
you guys are gonna walk away, understand, or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, that thing's gonna sit there. Who's gonna run it? What is the chain of command? I know, well, this is more for the county. What happens? Is it just gonna sit there and do nothing? That's all.
So, there's a couple different things that can happen. One is that because we don't see a profit, we don't see a return on our investment for at least 7 years. So what will happen is the banks will step in and run these. The nice thing about solar arrays is there's not a lot of maintenance. Having been in this business for 15 years, never having a problem with any of our arrays. They're still operating, and we think they'll last longer than 20 years. But in your case, in 5 years, they're still valuable arrays. You could have someone come in, and they could take it over instead of, and make a new deal with the county to run them.
I think I'm asking you a question. Yeah, you're trying to answer, but it wouldn't necessarily be yours. But
Yeah.
from my perspective, what I've done is, you guys, the doors are shut. No one cares from Kearsarge. That thing's gonna be sitting out there. I equate this to if you're doing a building project.
Yeah.
And my company goes under, the bonding company takes over. Bonding company don't run to fix that and get it going. It's and it's a little different on a construction project, because typically no one's in there, so you can let it go, right? And you can let it go 2, 3, 4 months, but this thing is an ongoing thing. How, do you know how, I guess that's not necessarily a question for you, but I think the county should tell us how they feel this is gonna happen.
Sure, but I can tell you that this project, it has the utility as well as Kearsarge or someone who would step in can immediately turn it off, so there's no power that's being generated at any time, and then you can come in,
Okay.
hire a company with the bond to decommission it. So if that's the worst case, but because we'll have at least 10-year debt on this, the banks will step in and run it.
No, I understand all the financial end, but you just answered my question,
Okay.
is you can go pull a switch and
Yeah, there's
you're not worried
recloses.
about anything anymore.
Correct.
Meaning that, you know, the
Correct.
thing's got an issue. Okay,
Yep.
thank you. All right. So,
I've got a couple things to say.
first name and address.
Sue Shockett, 1340 North Street. First, I want to thank you guys for your ongoing work in reviewing this project over the past 8 years. Jack and Katie, I think you were actually here from the very start of it, so God bless you.
What, the sun, the earth?
Huh?
I ain't that old.
You're older than me.
By a year.
I had a lot less gray hair when it started. So this project continues to grow in size. Somehow this particular phase of it jumped from 9 to 14 acres. The EMSA is for 9. I have not found the paper trail about how or when that occurred, but the numbers keep growing. It poses significant health and safety risk to residents. The proposed solar array would be built in close proximity to existing residences, as already stated, and the board has received evidence that fires resulting from solar arrays, like the one proposed here, are a common occurrence. Kearsarge admits that any such fire could not be extinguished, but must be allowed to burn out. The proposed array would now have hay growing underneath it, exacerbating the risk of a fire spreading. While burning, the fire would produce toxic smoke and release harmful chemicals to the groundwater and the environment. The Dover Amendment allows for reasonable regulation of solar arrays where necessary to protect the public health, safety, or welfare. Certainly, the significant risk of fire associated with this proposed solar array creates an unacceptable risk to public health, safety, and welfare. The county and Kearsarge have not made a single concession on size. To the contrary, upon hearing the extent of opposition to the project, they continue to increase the size of it and thereby increase its harm to the public health and safety. This is crazy, and we can't allow it to pass. If the planning board can't actually stop the project, which we believe you can and should to protect the public health, safety, and welfare, it is absolutely within your power to at least reduce the size. Please do not let the massive scope of this project ruin an entire corner of Walpole. Furthermore, Kearsarge has stated repeatedly that any downscaling or other measures to mitigate the project's threat to public health, safety, and welfare would make the project infeasible. The amount of profit that the proposed project may generate for Kearsarge and the county is irrelevant to the board's consideration of the application now in front of you. Finally, I want to clear up some confusion surrounding the project itself. DOER has not given final approval on this project. The letter from DOER that Dan Voss provided after the May 1st Planning Board meeting specifically states this is not a letter of approval. And I know we've already beat this to death, but I just want to point out the 2-year investigation from DOER is indeed still ongoing. And the DOER attorney confirmed that this past week. Further, I wanted, you guys haven't received this, I don't think, and it came in a little late for me to send it. Yesterday, our state senator, Mike Rush, along with State Representative Paul McMurtry's, sorry, Paul, office, sent a joint letter to the governor and to the commissioner of DOER on behalf of the town of Walpole, the Walpole Preservation Alliance, and all the neighbors about this project, asking for them to speed it up with the investigation, because our investigation did shed light on a lot of discrepancies, and this project never should have gotten those smart credits that have been talked about so much. So, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, next.
Hello again. Just want to, Hemali Patel from Susan Drive. Thank you. I think everything has been said. I'm sitting here, and this is like our fourth or fifth meeting with you, and I'm so proud of the effort that you are putting in. I am thankful to the board chairman and the members who are trying to have a voice for the citizens who otherwise would not be able to share our concerns. I am thankful that you have diligently read the transcripts and the videos that were posted on the Norfolk County's website. I myself had sent in a letter and an email that I believe you have received, specifically identifying 3 meetings that I would have loved if you get a chance to review them or see the videos. My letter has linked to all of those 3, where there is no doubt that none of the members of the committee that were present for all 3 meetings ever, a single person in that meeting ever said they're for this project. It is very clear in the video, and I'm glad the video still exists on the Norfolk County's website. Because if you saw those videos, we have consistently, since the 2 or 3 years, voiced our opinion that we are not against green energy, but we are against the location of where this is being done. That has clearly been our concern. It is not the right place, it is not safe, it is not what the residents and the lawful residents of this town want, and we now truly believe that you have something that we never thought we had, which is hope that maybe you will be able to do something in our favor. To the one member on the board that I clearly think has already made up his mind and has repeatedly voiced against any concerns that we are trying to bring up, I had invited you to come meet me in my neighborhood. That was 2 weeks ago. That was your opportunity to have a clear mind and a balanced opinion. Because if you are speaking and representing those who are for this project, I don't see them here in this room. Those who are showing up in this room are against, and those are 20 residents that are abutting this property, and we have been with this project fighting for the last 4 years. I gave you a chance to level things up with me specifically by coming and speaking with me and seeing where we live. Unfortunately, you did not take me up on that, and I'm very disappointed in that. To the rest of the members of the board, I truly, truly hope that you can find a compromise. Even better, with all the concerns we have heard today, I would like this project not to go forward at all, or at least pending vote until all the decisions have been really figured out, and all the details that we have been asking for are really in front of you. I trust you to make the right decision, provided you have been given the right information. And for pursuing that, once again, thank you. I'm not going to beat this to death. I think everybody before me have said everything that I wanted to say, so I'll keep it short. You have been with us many, many times till 9:30 and 10 p.m.s. I want to respect your time, but please, please make sure that we get a good resolution here. The town of Walpole deserves a right choice. The citizens of this town do not want this project happening in middle of our residential area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you guys want the letter from the senator and
Yeah, we don't have it, yep.
Okay.
All right. You didn't read it, right? Okay.
No, do you want me to read it out?
We'll take a vote on that. No, I'll paraphrase it, and it's from the Commissioner, Department of Energy, and
It's to the commissioner.
to the commissioner, I'm sorry, and past 8 years, been working on this, and, let's see, allegations and something, and, oh, basically, they want you to get off the stick and start looking into this, correct? That's basically, yeah, that's a big paraphrase. It was, come from Mike Rush and Paul McMurtry, so basically, it's to them to get off on this other thing, the investigation.
Because the investigation is very valid into the claims
Okay.
that we've made.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So,
My name is Pete DePasca, 15 Beethoven Avenue. I want to talk about the Energy Management Services Agreement that's between the county and Kearsarge. Just to give you an idea of the impact of the magnitude of the numbers here, and that we're talking about, and how it is, how Kearsarge and the county are taking great advantage of the community, the town, and the school to make a large sum of money. Annual rent is $31,500 per year, goes up 1.5% per year, so 30-something thousand per year. Not a whole lot. The annual energy production is just over 2 million kilowatt hours. Now, the average base compensation rate that they're going to get to sell this energy is it's about 24 cents per kilowatt hour. That works out to about $500,000 per year. And then there's the incentive adders, right? There's the agricultural use. That gets you 6 cents per kilowatt hour more. And then you have a solar tracking adder. That gets you 1 cent per kilowatt hour more. So that's 7 cents per kilowatt hour. That's about a 30% increase in what they're going to get to do this solar array. Is there energy storage in this plan? I forget. Yes, energy storage. That gets you 4.5 cents per kilowatt hour more, based on the amount that you store. So there's a huge incentive here. There's a 30+% increase in revenue that can happen here by having it be an agricultural solar array. I also question the educational curriculum value, right? Kearsarge is supposed to develop a curriculum to be used at the Aggie School. My question is, why do we need to build solar panels on a field when you already have solar panels in the parking lot and on the building? You can have a curriculum based on those solar panels. I know the questions come up with what happens in 20 years. Well, the Energy Management Services Agreement says that the term is for 20 years. And Kearsarge has a decommissioning plan. But what the Energy Management Services Agreement assumes that there's a degradation factor in the performance of the solar panels of 0.5% per year. So after 20 years, the production capacity is going to be at 90% of a new panel. So you know what's going to happen after 20 years? Kearsarge is not going to spend money to decommission it. They're going to sell the panels, just like the county said. So this is not a 20-year deal and then it's done. I mean, if you have panels that are 90% of capacity, these are going to go a lot further than 20 years. Right? I question the validity of this being in the SMART program in the first place. We talked about, right now there is a requirement that you cannot have any clearing or converting of forest land. So now I know that's in the new regulations. They've been grandfathered in, but that's what it's all about. There is, we talked about growing. I mentioned this in the last time I spoke. You can get a waiver every year that if for some reason you can't grow your crops there because of sun or pests or whatever, or lack of rain, you can get a waiver. So you technically don't have to grow anything every year. You can get a waiver for that. And then there's the definition of commercial farming, right? Someone brought this up from the board last week. This has to be commercial farmed land. So for solar projects to qualify for this agricultural adder, it must be located on land that is actively used for commercial agriculture. And that means that the land must be managed as a commercial enterprise by the application for at least the 3 previous years prior to the application. This is not a commercial enterprise. This is our they're qualifying for this SMART program under what I believe is false pretenses. This is not what the SMART program is intended for, right? We talked about it. For commercial farmers in rural areas. So this is the chance to do the right thing. Thank you.
Okay. A few comments to what you had. It's funny, the 31,500 rent, what I did today at work is I took the acreage, what everybody looks at their tax bill, this is rural, took the number of square feet, prorated it for the number of square feet, and if this was just vacant land in a rural district, the tax would be $45,000 a year. So if they're renting it for 31.5, good deal, but the tax is gonna be more. I'm still not sure how that goes with the town. I kind of gave you that little look when you talk about curriculum. That's what I've been doing. It's like, how many more of these do you need? Every kid gets his own solar farm at the Aggie. I mean, God. And as far as how they're getting through here, somehow they are. And the state, and it doesn't seem like someone's doing it in the commercial farmland, which I talked about the 61A and the previous 3 years. I know what that's about. So I will ask, before we go on to you, sir, can Kearsarge answer that, how this is, and it did say commercial, I didn't bring that up, but where is this exemption or something to that effect? This was designed for private farmers to keep the farms going, and it says commercial. And this is all 61A land, which is farmland. Where does this come in the grand state?
It's under the old regs. No, it's just.
I didn't see it in any regs, that's the thing.
Yeah, so as part of the application process, that's one of the criteria the state looks at, and the Aggie provided the records of the hay production and sales for the previous 3 years as per the regulation.
They produced what?
Hay production and sale.
Okay, but this is not a commercial land.
They do sell hay, and that was per records provided by the farming group. At
Okay,
the
but
Aggie.
once again, it's a commercial farmland, that's where I'm getting stuck on, whether they sell the hay or not, I don't understand, but.
So the state reviewed the application, and this was a criteria that they specifically reviewed, and the school and the county provided the information to demonstrate that they met that
this just went-
criteria.
Okay, so I understand it's not part of you, but it went through, so you don't have any control on it. Okay, sir?
Michael Brennan, 16 Walden Drive. Last week, you mentioned the arborvitaes were the trees, and I don't know on the plan, this is a planting height, because I know I've planted them, and you start them at like 4 feet, and I've got ones that it took 14 years to get to 10 feet. So just what's the height that they're planted on? And then what's the plan? Because if you plant a row of them, like sometimes they die in the middle, like a couple of them die in the middle, so you're gonna put a new one in that's 4 feet, or you're gonna put a full one in? So my windows are 20 feet they're 20 feet high from the ground, and these things are 15 feet tall. I saw those models they put up, and they're huge. The whole thing is huge. I can't imagine how big the whole array is gonna be. And it looks like it's in my back window, because it looks really close. But is a 15-foot tree gonna screen that? They mentioned a berm that was there and is not there now. And that seems like that would help to have a berm at least, so you have the berm and then you have the trees on that to help with that height. And then there's I want to see the plan for a second, but as far as the noise they mentioned last week too, so they mentioned 60 dB. So I'm an audio engineer, and I know dB, A-weighted, C-weighted. An average meadow is 33 dB, so that's a huge difference. This is now 30 dB, which is, dB is logarithmic, so every 10 dB is 10 times louder. So that's 10, 100, 1,000 times louder. And so when we do events, I can tell you what dB I'm going to do. I have a meter, I can tell you. And this is a big project. I don't know if they kind of have an engineer that can say, this is the exact dB. They should be able to do that and say this is what it's going to produce. There's calculations, and they can sign that and say this is what because that's a big change. And I know I get your point about the fire trucks and the chief, but I just wanted to mention that I hike on that road, and I don't know if it's been discussed that that's not really a road, it's a trail that goes in there. And in the spring, you can't even hike on the trail. You have to walk around it because it's so muddy. I can't imagine they're gonna get a fire truck in there. So I'd be interested from the chief to find out how they're planning on getting trucks, even a brush truck. And we're talking, you know, it's one thing, a brush fire is a brush fire. This is a big industrial thing. And I think you're gonna want a real fire truck in there. And I can't imagine, because there's a grade and then it goes around, I can't imagine you can get a real fire truck in there. Is there can I look at the diagram?
Yeah, what, that one?
Yeah, just the latest one, yeah.
You turn around. Yeah, I'm gonna refer to that.
Put the camera on.
Take a bunch.
So I was just curious, because I just saw this for the first time. So this here is 150 feet, the side, I don't know if you can see it. The long side here, this has 150-foot setback, and this is only 105. And I was just wondering why there's a difference here. If this is important to be 150, why is this only 105? I mean, there's so much space. This is 2,000 feet that the Aggie has, and there's all fields in here. Why does it have to be jammed up against the neighbors? When they've got, I mean, this is the cow field over here. This is just an empty field. They don't even grow anything on it. This is our open field. Why do they have to go all the way up in here? You know, another 45 feet, and you'd have your 150.
Yeah, so the field areas were assessed in terms of their suitability by the teachers and staff at Aggie, and so there are fields that are being used for other uses. And the 105 is a significant buffer. It's 150.
It's not. I saw that thing. It looks like it's not. It's not big. They do think it, but this is a 15-foot high structure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not that much buffer.
It's a significant buffer, given buffers for buildings that are approved on similar lots and significant higher buildings. And part of the offset here is due to shading. This is to the north.
I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Can you say, what was the DB levels you referred to?
They mentioned 60.
Yeah,
All right.
but what was the reference you had?
I looked it up. It's 33 is like an open meadow, which is what that is. It's
Okay.
completely open.
Anyone else?
Hi, it's me again. I just want to make
Can't do a
one.
return until everybody else has their shot.
You're-
Well, yeah, so it just, I assume there are people behind you, so.
Okay, yeah, I'm the last one. I won't be long because this is going on. But I've been following this saga since. Oh, sorry, Brandon Bale, Covey Road. I've been following this saga since 2020. It's unbelievable. This is still going in 2025. So today was enlightening seeing this. Just a couple actual detailed questions on this as well, probably. So there's a trail that goes through the meadow. If the fence is up as proposed here, does that trail go away? So the trail that kind of cuts right through the middle of the field, I think it's like here.
That's that road that's shown there, yeah.
So there would be no access for people to walk through this field
Now you can walk around outside.
on the outside of the
That's-
gate?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, but that's not the existing trail that's there now?
No.
The road?
That's
Okay.
the existing road there.
Understood.
We have gates here, so that hay road.
Okay, so people would still be able to walk through at any time? Okay, not have to go through the gates? Okay. And then the other thing is the
Walk through the field, but around the fence, basically.
got it. And then the fence that's around it, was that ever thought to kind of contain the noise? Was that the thought there in the design of the fence? I don't know. It may have not been. No, okay, got it. So that's one thing, is just the noise. It was brought up by the gentleman just before me. These things are loud. I don't know if people have experienced, solar array units. They're very loud. And so I'd be really, I was surprised to see this plan and see how close it was to these residences. It's not one of my residents, but like, I walk through this field all the time. Those houses are like right there. Like, they're like right there.
Why aren't the houses shown?
Well,
That's not for me.
let's,
I mean, yeah, the houses aren't shown here, but literally, the houses are like right there, right? And right here,
That's why I'm wondering why they're not.
ma'am,
yeah.
They great.
They have a multitude of different plans. The plan they're using doesn't necessarily show that. They have an existing condition that I assume shows that.
The existing condition shows the property lines.
It doesn't show.
Property lines in the house lots themselves. That doesn't show the actual house.
Well, it shows the property lines, you're gonna show all the abutters next to you, correct?
Right, shows property lines within lines, yep. And, out beyond.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not surprised to hear some of the folks that have talked, especially that have houses along these two edges here, that are like, this is gonna be like in my backyard, I'm gonna hear this, how am I gonna sleep? I mean, this really impacts their property, big time. I would be freaked out if that was my house. Yeah. Okay, so there's that. Power, like the power coming into this, that's actually gonna be powering this thing, right? Where is that coming from in the axis? Can you just, is that, which axis is that? Okay, so you guys are running it down from the Aggie down into the,
Right.
Okay.
It's an existing transmission line that comes into here.
okay. Is there any update to the power stuff that you need to do for that, or is that kind of exist?
It exists up to the existing barn, and we'll have to run it from there into the.
Okay. Yeah, that's just something else to kind of consider. I mean, there's a lot of power that needs to be input into the system. Okay, and then so those are just things that were running through my head as people were talking about things today. But I mean, so this is a little bit for the board. I really appreciate you guys being a little bit cautious and skeptical of this plan. You know, there's just things that have been brought up today that raises your eyebrows. I mean, here's a couple. We're growing broccoli under these things to, you know, mitigate the heat impact and potential fire hazards, okay? Interesting. There's infrared sensors on drones flying around these things that are monitoring if they're working. Okay? That's 24/7 monitoring. That's interesting, okay, wow, that's amazing. I work in developing technology for the Department of Defense and Intelligence community, and, you know, that's impressive if they can do that all the time and not be disruptive. Kearsarge cutting hay. Wow, okay. So they're gonna be out there cutting hay and farming. I mean, I'm not, these are things I heard today, and they just make me raise my eyebrows, like really. So I really appreciate the skepticism that's being, you know, kind of brought to them, and actually is that the plan? And then the final thing that I'll say is, again, this Doverac thing that we're kind of, you know, talking about, why this is even thought about on the Aggie plot of land. Again, I totally agree with the statements that were said before. The kids can learn how to do solar and green energy from the panels on the roofs that already exist. There's a good program that could be put around that. I'm sure Kearsarge could actually have a lot of good inputs to that, given their line of work, but there is no need to put a massive industrial-sized solar panel plot in beautiful land in Walpole. So that's my thoughts. Thanks.
Just to answer the Dover Act, just so you understand, we can't restrict public, but I've been maintained since day one. Yeah, I understand that. This isn't public, this is a private entity, and I've said before, and I'll say it again till this is all over. Why can't we put a McDonald's at the Aggie? Why not? To me, the Dover Act's the Dover Act, they overruled it, but if you look at Reed, and I know their attorney going to disagree, but there was nothing in there that said they could do this on as a private entity. They said the Dover Act covers, so if the Aggie wants to build it, they can build it, but it doesn't say that a private developer can come in and make money off of public land, that's all. So when McDonald's goes up there, then I'll agree with them, so.
I have a question. Also, aren't they saying that it's because they're selling the hay that it's a commercial? So how can they have it both ways? How can it be educational?
Am I understand, well, at first it's like they had plant sales, so I'm not necessarily getting into that, but I guess you can sell, hey, no, you're not necessarily commercial, but
Isn't that how they're under the SMART
No, they're going by on the smart because they want to have the hay underneath, but as far as selling it, I guess they're allowed to. The Dover Act doesn't restrict, or nothing restricts you from that. But where I've gone on this is, you now have a private entity being Kearsarge in taking advantage of the Dover Amendment, which I believe that court case did not address. But anyway, sir.
Attorney Tom Yessi, Walden Drive. Mr. Chairman, I did submit a letter, my office did submit a letter with various proposals. Just since you brought up the Dover Amendment, you do look at the ZBA case where the town got sued by Kearsarge. The land court specifically said that the Dover Amendment did not apply here because the primary purpose of this is not for education, it's for profit. I have a copy of it here if you want to see a relevant portion here, but there's no restriction. The land court said there's no restriction that from the Dover Amendment that the town can't restrict it. That's not what happened in that ZBA case.
Well, if you want to send that to us, I appreciate it.
I got a hard copy right here if you want.
Oh, okay, I thought you didn't have a
You like
copy.
paper. You said you like paper.
See what I've been writing on all night?
Yeah.
Yours.
Oh, there you go.
So I won't lose it.
That's the section right there that talks about the conclusion on the Dover Amendment. And how
Okay.
It doesn't restrict the board.
All right, I
very short
appreciate it.
paragraph.
All right. Now, you've said it a lot. Now, I want to, this is what I want to ask. I read your letter. It's about 500 feet and all that stuff. But going along with that, with being said, I'm looking at the layout of this, and I don't think we ever discussed, if we did, maybe I was asleep, what's preventing you guys from pulling this down from Walden? Coming further east or south, whatever, coming towards Main Street?
South.
I'm asking,
We originally had the array situated deeper into the woods and based on feedback that we'd received.
no, I understand that. I'm looking at this. Pull it down, skinny it up and get longer, so now you get more buffer to Walden, more buffer to Susan.
We have 105 foot.
I didn't know, that's, okay, I understand, but please, answer my question.
It reduces the size of the project.
No, it doesn't, well, you got all this down here, right?
Sorry?
Why couldn't it be pulled down another 200 feet? Move the battery storage, everything else down further?
The shading of the trees to the south prevents you from being able to build the panels. in there.
Shading of the trees?
We have to cut down another 300 feet of trees.
Yeah, but it'd still be,
So,
But you-
so we'd have to cut another 300 feet down in order to move the array further down, and that's what we had originally.
We were asked to cut less trees.
Yeah, when we.
okay, all right, well, we'll,
So the landowner, when we walked with them, asked us to.
the landowner.
Yeah.
I'm one of the landowners. Who lives in this state, this county? We're all landowners. No one asked us. So, but it could be pulled down, and it could be skinnied up to give buffers, and you'd still get what you need. Correct?
That had been.
I know it's, okay, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think I didn't introduce myself at the beginning. William Buckley, Cobb Terrace, Walpole, Assistant County Director. The commissioners, who are the landowners and the administrators of county properties in Walpole and other areas throughout Norfolk County, after hearing from a number of people, I think you, at the beginning of this hearing, articulated that we first had it in the trees. We got a lot of feedback that they wanted us to cut down as few trees as possible. What you have before you is as few trees as possible. We've moved it. We have moved, even within the field, the array farther away from Susan Drive. After feedback, we've taken as few trees as possible in that area, and that's in the same way another project, the Hilltop project that you had, initially was further back from North Street. It was deeper into the woods. We received feedback. Folks didn't want us to cut down as many trees. The commission responded to that, and so that's how you have what is before you. We've minimized the amount of trees taken down.
Okay.
And we've also, and the size has also been reduced in those iterations as well.
Okay, what I read, though, what was given to me is the meeting back on May 16, 22. They'd already decided they were going with the high one. And there was nothing in there about the one in the trees? Where did all this public input or outcry come from the trees? At what meeting was there? Because I don't have you guys didn't give a record of it online.
Well, through you asked to look at some of the presentations that were given, and that's the link we gave you.
Yeah, but those are to whom though? To the commissioners?
To the commissioners,
Yeah.
and we did have a couple of public hearings
I
within there as
understand.
well.
I'm
We
not
vote-
doubting you
And
gave-
one of the largest pieces of feedback was we want you to use, to cut as few trees as possible. So that's when, from the beginning, we were looking in 17 and 18, before my time here, we were looking deeper into the woods, and that's when the iterations moved into the field.
Yeah, I understand, but you said people didn't want the trees cut on this particular one,
No,
didn't
they
get moved
didn't,
down.
the overarching feedback we received is to cut down
Oh,
as few
okay.
trees as possible, so
Can
that
you-
is how we.
Can you elaborate, Bill, where this feedback came? All I have was what was in May 16th, 2022, and it was already decided.
There was
we're
a
going
public
here,
hearing.
This is it, done. I didn't even see another plan. It was always the one over here in the woods and this one, and nothing has changed. So I don't know where the
Through you,
feedback
Mr. Chair,
came.
we had public hearings in 2020, I believe we had public hearings in 2021.
Well, it wasn't in your website.
They're under.
This presentation was on the website.
I think one of the, oh, I'm sorry, Jamie. I think we've also raised this at other meetings with the planning board. Here you see from quarter three, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different iterations of the project, and this was in the material you had on the website that you looked at.
No, I
One
didn't
of the
see that. All I
presentations.
had was what you guys gave me, so.
That's on the website.
So
in the
what
presentation.
was the date of those?
The date of the presentation, or?
This is the August 19th, 2022 presentation.
August 9th, you guys already decided in May of '22 you're going to the high one, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so it was fait accompli. We were just moving on in the trees, so, why can't you move it down? I can't believe anybody would have said, don't cut the trees, I'd rather have it closer to my house.
Thank you.
Again, we're trying to respond to as many of the public inputs we have, so we did less trees.
Well, what I did find funny reading it from, I think it was Mr. Collins who said, we're not here to answer questions, we're here to show you what we're doing. I love that transcript, but I wish I could do that and sitting up here.
Well, a public hearing is where you take in public feedback, and it's
Well,
not a dialogue.
this is a public hearing. You take it and you mold it. That one was, here's what we're doing.
And we decreased the size.
Okay.
And moved it.
All right, but I still think it can be moved. So it can be moved, only you're talking about a few trees.
What?
Can I have a chance to respond to the tree comments?
In one sec, I'm just gonna ask Mr. Buckley. So, the final word is, the county says, nope, stand right there.
Yes.
Okay, it's like, when I deal with developers, says, I ain't moving. Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, again, we have moved it several times, and we're eager to
Not with
hear
us,
this.
you have. I haven't seen it move. This is the first time I've ever seen this one.
Well, again, it's gone through many iterations, and we're eager for your adjudication on this.
Yeah, but the people, we're trying to help the people, right?
I understand.
The fence, yeah, I'm glad they agreed to it. The biggest concern after the fence is how close these are to their houses. Now, it's not like there's a cliff or the ocean. This can be moved. And when you move it down, you're still gonna have trees covering it up when you move it closer to Main Street, correct?
As I said, the commission has decided that this is the
So the
level of
commission
tree clearing.
basically says is, here's the plan, planning board, do what we tell you, and then approve it. Don't do that with me.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
That's what it is.
Respectfully, I would not characterize the commissioner's comments like that. The commissioners have worked with Kearsarge, and this is the plan
I
we've come up with.
understand, but it doesn't
We
sound
ask
like,
you to-
but has the ability. So we're sitting here working through this. So there is an ability to help the residents. You guys still get what you want. You still get the cash, and they get a little more buffer. What's wrong with that?
Again, through you, Mr. Chair, we have moved it within that field away from Susan and Philip in the last few years, so.
But not in front of us, and not in front of a public hearing.
We've responded to public requests, and we have moved it within the
Okay,
field.
but, so what I'm saying here is, now you're in front of us, so you're basically telling us, here's your site plan, planning board. Yeah, we could do this, but we're not going to. It wouldn't affect our money. It wouldn't affect anything. We still get the same juice out of there. Kearsarge still gets their same juice. Everybody, and the people who live in the neighborhood are a little more happy they get away from their house. I don't see what the big deal about that is.
Okay.
I know, you can't tell, you're not, you're here, but you're not, you got nose.
To your point, this is what we've agreed to with them, and this is the plan we
Okay,
support.
we've done a few things over the years on different site plans to make them, we're trying to make this better. Not what one person or one entity wants. Because this is a public hearing, we have the public, and that's why they get all the notices, so we're trying to make it better. The simplest way to make it better, move it down, skinny it up, so now you can get a bigger buffer off of Walden, get away from Susan. Yeah, you cut a few trees, big whoop, but then you still got a buffer there. But it's, guess what else? It's moving back on your land closer, that's all. And it's land that's not being used for much now anyway. I don't see what the issue is. I like the idea we can move it and appease people. So, that's all.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Just, can I quickly respond to the tree comments? Because I've been part of this since the day one when it was first presented. And again, they commented about this, so it's their words. Initially, this was presented to be built in a forest of 8 acres of land where the trees were going to be cut down. And the objection from the town was that, why would you cut down 8 acres of trees to put up a solar field? It's counterproductive. That's the comment at the meeting. And they know it, but again, we're playing wishy-washy with words. You need full information to make your decision. I just want to clarify the comments about the trees. Thank you.
Okay, just so you understand, we had that same comment on North Street. And people didn't want to look at it, so they moved it into the woods, and they cut trees. So you can cut them.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, I gotta
I
get.
took his permission. I took, really,
You'll let her go?
I give her 30 seconds.
30 seconds, thank you.
I'm in Congress.
So another comment from the videos, if you get a chance to see them, when we were talking about the location of the solar panels and why are you cutting trees, and the comment that was clarified before me, another comment when we were saying, why are you putting this here and why can't you go back a little further, as you are asking, one of the commissioners told us, this is in record, the ship has already sailed. Thank you.
And we're on that too about the trees. It's the stupid haunted hayride that all the neighbors hate because they keep our kids up until 11 o'clock at night. That's where you see and it's coming from the school because they make money on the hayride. That's not the neighbors. It's like they're the landowners, for crying out loud.
No, I understand the hayride, yep.
You know, like, and you've said it a million times, that school does nothing for anybody. So I have a 1 and a 2, just to show who we're dealing with. I have a 1 and a 2-year-old. So my wife went down to the Aggie so my kids could see the cows. They threw her out 2 weeks ago in the middle of the week. They threw her out. A mother with a 1 and a 2-year-old. She can't be in there. I mean, it's.
Oh, no.
There's no, the quality of the neighbors there. And I know you have a long history with it. But so nothing surprises me anymore.
Oh, no. All right, so that's why I've been writing on the back of your stuff, and that's one of the things I'm looking at, 500 feet, I'm looking, don't think we do it, but I'm looking down, skinny it up.
Yeah.
Make it longer, pull it down.
Cut it in half. Yeah.
Well, they have a,
Go for amendment, you can.
I understand, we haven't got to that point yet, but they've presented this, so we'll see where we get with this, but we already heard that, the ship has sailed, I don't doubt that was said, and it's just, boom, this is what they're demanding, but, we're here to help everybody and make it work better. That's what we do with all these site plans. People may, company thinks, oh, this would be the best way to take a turn, and we all, maybe for you and one employee, but we look at the whole thing, and that's what we're doing here. So, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, the location of this project is just unprecedented. I mean, usually, you ask Kearsarge, I don't know, a couple meetings ago to submit you like similar projects, and the stuff the board has eyes. The stuff they submitted are out in the middle of Western Mass and farmlands. They put the stupid parking garage solar thing to compare it. Again, nothing like this. that even they could show you. Due to the location, there's a school there, there's neighborhoods there, like all, it's unprecedented. As far as the board's authority, the zoning act, and it's in my letter, allows for the regulation of solar energy systems and structures where necessary to protect the public health, safety, or welfare. Case law all says the same thing. The land court decision that I gave you says the same thing. Where the town got in trouble is, the court said, basically, this is a prohibition of solar. And that's where the other towns have gotten in trouble. But the board absolutely has a right and an obligation to regulate these things for the public interest, the welfare, and the safety of the public. Did, again, submit, as far as a few proposals to the board. The fence, I'm glad that, the county and Kearsarge have come to their better senses on that. Clearly a safety hazard without a fence there. Mr. Chair, we've talked about a buffer zone for the noise, but more importantly, the fire risk. If I could just speak as far as the fire risk and the fire chief and the fire department. The fire department's, and I've spoken to the deputy chief, if the board remembers, we've talked about this in earlier meetings. The fire department's limited to what the fire code says. That's what they can do. They can say, this is up to code or it's not up to code. So they're limited to say like, oh, they would love it. Of course they don't love it. It's gonna be a potential headache for them. But this is where the board's authority, for public safety they're allowed to do more than the fire department is. Fire department's limited by the code. Code that's really not come up to speed here. This is a new kind of industry that's coming on here. Again, you have more authority than the fire department does to regulate this. So 100 feet, that's like a pitcher's mound to home plate. That's how far it is from my property. Too close. Again, as you remember, I spoke to the deputy chief. I said the concern is 100 feet. Like whatever perimeter you contain, it'll be able to jump it. He said it was a realistic concern, a very realistic concern. And again, their hands are tied by the fire code. Yours are not. You have a public safety duty and function here. So 100 feet, not sufficient. Again, we talked about the height. We asked them to limit it to 3 feet. The privacy screen, we talked about a berm to kind of get these trees up higher all at once here. So it gives us a full screening. And they talk about spreading them 10 feet apart, 5-foot trees for 15-foot panels. It just doesn't jive. So we're asking for a full screenage, 15 feet high, through the use of larger trees, berms. I know you've used berms in other projects. Fencing, thank you. The other concern that came up last meeting is and it's come up today, I know they monitor these things, but what's the response? So if on Memorial Day weekend, it blows over, something happens, one of those high tension wires comes loose, what's the guarantee that they're gonna respond and deal with it? Because now you have in a hayfield, right, a high voltage wire flopping around down there where people walk and all that stuff, or it's gonna catch fire. What guarantees do we have in writing that says they're gonna respond during non-business hours, all those things? So we'd ask for like a written action response plan from Kearsarge to kind of detail that. Again, the board has the authority to regulate this. Case law, zoning act, the ZBA decision, all reflect that. So there shouldn't be an attitude among the board or among the town that there's nothing we can do here. You can't say no, but you can regulate. You can absolutely regulate this in the safety of the neighbors. This is an unprecedented project. You have the facts on your side here. Thank you.
Okay. Couple questions. Comment, well, first, before I ask Kearsarge something, yeah, it is a good comment about a written action plan. That would be how they handle it, so everybody knows ahead of time. And, even the fire department nods their head so that everybody here understands. That's not asking for the world, that's probably asking what you need anyway. Yeah, we did talk about the berm. What happened to the berm?
There was not a berm in this design at any point in time.
I remember I talking about it, said the berm would be nice because, you put your plants up higher, but it's not.
At that point, with the civil engineered flag, that would have stormwater impacts. It would potentially direct water toward houses.
Towards what?
And the stormwater analysis being completed and approved by the Conservation Commission.
Okay, yeah.
One of the concerns, one of the major concerns that was raised was around stormwater on the site and movement of stormwater, and an important undertaking by the project was that we were not altering the stormwater flow patterns.
Okay, but the berm, okay, one I didn't like is, I don't care what the conservation, we're the planning board, so we're not bound by them, but the berm, you're saying it would cause flooding?
I'm not saying it would cause flooding, I'm saying the explanation around not putting a berm in place at the end of the field was that we were working to maintain stormwater flow patterns, and that a concern that was raised strongly by the department in town that regulates stormwater management, and the group that regulates stormwater management was ensuring that we weren't altering stormwater flow patterns on site.
So I don't understand how it would alter it, but it would just keep it on. To me, most people want, if I'm a neighbor, keep it on your property, so if it's gonna flood, it's gonna come back at the Aggie, but since it's all flat as a, whatever, but.
Mr. Chairman, we have to submit
Oh, okay.
mitigation plan. You were asking that question.
Yeah.
As our, sorry?
Emergency response plan.
Emergency response plan. And these, the fire department has access, and these can be turned off instantaneously.
And the emergency response plan is part of the package that you have before you, as part of the operations and management plan. Which
So we do have it?
Yes.
Okay. We'll dig for it, okay. Sue?
I know, since you don't want me to read to you, I'm going to be really quick. Just want to remind everybody, when we were discussing the money grab and how much money is going to be generated by this is only a phase of this project. If you'll recall, this all started on North Street, so there's going to be a phenomenal amount of money coming in from this thing. And the size of the project has increased in correlation with their greed. And there's been absolutely not one single concession to the neighbors, other than moving the thing around, but nobody has shrunken this thing, and every time it's come up, it's grown, and the dollars and the greed are just multiplying. That's it. I will leave you and not speak to you again. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Olivia Cullen, 27 Bubbling Brook Road. I've been coming to these meetings for several years, and I just want to underline that I've never heard anyone in support of this project. It is such a ridiculous location for such a project. It just does not belong on North Street or in a neighborhood. We're not talking about a farm in Western Massachusetts. This is a school in a residential neighborhood with a beautiful, pristine, farmable land that I also see. I'm not a farmer, but I know what dry grass looks like, and I know how quickly dry grass will burn, and there's no exit route. Those people will be engulfed in flames in no time. One fire hydrant? I just think it's a disaster waiting to happen. I'm sorry it has gone this far for this long, but it just is the wrong location. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right. I guess that, the comments. So, Kearsarge, you guys got anything left?
I would briefly like to respond to the comments about the Dover Amendment that I heard.
My McDonald's one?
Pardon?
My McDonald's one?
No, I still haven't found that case for you, sir.
Yeah, there is nothing that allows a private entity on public, but anyway, go ahead.
The attorney whose last name I missed, he is correct that the judge said that under the educational portion of the Dover Amendment, the other project as well as this project didn't meet the standard, but we're not here under that portion of the Dover Amendment. We're here under the other paragraph, paragraph 9, which refers to large-scale solar energy systems. And he is correct that it permits a municipality to impose reasonable regulations for public health, safety, and welfare. And your town has done that with the adoption of the solar overlay bylaw that you have. And so while you have the power to review this and we hope approve it, and the ability to impose reasonable conditions as discussed at length in the letter I sent in before the last hearing, and I will not reiterate because it is getting late. The board's authority is still limited by the scope of your own bylaw, and you do have to operate within that and with the considerations that are in the bylaw, because those are what apply to the project. And so you do have some leeway, but it is respectfully not nearly as broad as the other attorney suggested to you. And I certainly understand why people would prefer it to be broader, but that is not the world that we are operating in tonight. And so we ask the board, we know you understand your authority. You've been doing this, all of you, for a very long time. You've sat here for many hearings, patiently listened to everybody, answered questions. We appreciate your time. And with that, I think we would ask you to close the public hearing and hold a vote on the project. Thank you.
Okay, taking up what you just said, you said, yeah, we gotta go by our zoning under whatever the section is, 15, 14, right?
15.
Yeah, we gotta go by it. What does it say in the first thing? You can only put them in these particular areas. We're not in that area. To me, gloves off. I know you won't agree, but we are very clear where you can put these. You agree?
I agree that there was a map attached that had the locations, and the land court and the appeals court invalidated that map.
What did?
The land court and the appeals court invalidated the map, which limited the locations
Yeah.
that you can place them in. So as of now, having not amended the map that goes with it, they are valid in all zoning districts across
but-
Walpole.
But we put them here, and we put these conditions based upon only being able to put them there. You follow?
I don't understand
Okay,
where
it's
you're
very
going.
simple. Before, put them in the woods, put them in a dump. You didn't need much in the way of protection, did you? Because no one saw them, no one cared.
Oh, I
Okay, now, that's how our little zoning thing was crafted.
Yes.
We didn't need much. You go up to the old bird, no one knows where it is, no one can even get there. When they build the one behind Howard, you'll never see, these are in nowhere land. There's no houses, no nothing. That's why, when we did these, this is all you really needed, because you weren't protecting residential, you weren't protecting. Had we known that the land court, or whatever, I'm glad they come out with this decision, they're great, is, they just said, "Pfft." So now, so everybody's going back to, well, this is all you've got, there's your section. Yes, this was based upon, you can only go over here, not where we're putting it now. So to me, okay, fine, then, as far as I'm concerned, all bets are off. I'm not, they say we can't, we gotta do them over here, okay, then I don't agree based upon what we have here, because we didn't amend this, because weren't told this, all right? So had we known that these could have gone anywhere, Don Tootin, it would be a lot tighter than what we see here now.
I certainly understand where you're coming from, Mr. Chairman. You know, the way to amend it is to go to town meeting and actually change the bylaw. It has been a period of time since the appeals court decision came down, and the bylaw hasn't been amended, so for the moment, this is what you have in front of you and what you need to make a decision under.
But my point is, everybody, you guys keep going back to what we have there, and I understand that was crafted based upon being in the middle of a dump, so to speak. That's how all these were supposed to be. And now this has come, and this is actually a farm, so. Anyway. Now, I'd ask, all right, so you know where I'm coming from, is I think it should be moved and narrowed down, but also I don't believe, you guys, like I said, I'll give my Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. Show me something that indicated that preliminary approval is set to go and they can't change it, and I've heard that, don't doubt it. If I had that, that's one less thing that I can, what do you call it? Go.
I hear you, but as Mr. Bernstein said, we can't provide it until it's built. Because
you can't provide it?
We don't get the final letter until we submit
Yeah,
the
but is there
as-built.
something indicating in the state or somewhere that someone could say this is how it goes, the process, and not necessarily you guys, but maybe the state people?
I would defer to one of the experts on that.
I mean, you get a letter from DOER saying this is how the process works.
Yeah, that's fine. That's the best.
If that's something you like, we certainly can get that.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, is you guys don't, like I said, I'm not saying, I don't believe you, but just something that we can hold our hat on. And if DOR says, or whatever the name is, they say, this is the way it goes, and what they got is, we're not gonna touch what gets approved, and what you said, then that takes that off the table, okay?
Certainly.
All right. When can you get it? I know this is a state, it could be tomorrow, it could be 10 years from now.
Respectfully, Mr. Chair, I would request that that's a condition of approval, because
Well, if that's a condition of approval, you won't have approval until that's given. Right?
I believe we can't get a building permit, so.
Right, we always, we had even with North Street, we had conditions that before we could get a building permit and other property. So it's a conditional approval. We can't do anything until we present that letter.
To this board.
Correct.
Yeah, I've done that in the past, and we're getting sued by somebody who thinks that's wrong. But, been down that road, so. I'd be feel more comfortable if had it, but I don't know why you couldn't get it in a week or two.
We can't. I can't keep going on and going back.
Okay, so the final on, at least what I'm thinking, moving it down, shorten it up, is that yes, no, off the table, this is it?
Sorry?
We want to move it down.
They
Not-
can't change the plan. This would be, we gotta go back to Concom, we've gotta do everything all over again. And we got a lot of feedback during this, from Aggie, from teachers, from going
Okay.
back out.
Okay.
One second. From going out there, I had meetings with teachers in the field, we had meetings with commissioners.
What neighbors?
Basically.
Teachers union.
Please.
Where are the teachers now? We had a committee who came out there, they put 11 people, we walked the site, we came back, we looked at it.
No, I understand everything you
No,
did.
no, I'm just, but we can't change this at this point and go back. We certainly can have a condition
What
of
would-
approval that says, I want you to get from DOER a letter confirming that this is how the process works. That's perfectly reasonable. But at this point, we can't start over again.
Okay, can I ask, is it you can't because there's something prohibiting, or you can't because you don't want to? There is a difference.
It's time, it's where we stand in the process right now, and the other factors that are driving it. Sorry?
That's won't, not can't.
Interconnection, we've got requirements from Eversource, they don't give you forever to build a project.
So when is that interconnection ready to
We've
fly?
already gotten extensions. We need to basically accept where we are today, or we're gonna lose our position in the queue.
All right, but you have, please, but, so North Street is not in jeopardy?
North Street, we went back and we got an extension,
Okay.
based that we had approval.
Okay, I guess that's a big question, well, I'll ask them, it's been approved for a while, whatever, you had the court case, what's taking that one?
What's taking the time in the court case?
No, what's taking North Street, why hasn't that kicked off?
Because we've got to get, as Sue mentioned, we're trying to push DOER to basically say, yes, you did this correctly, and once we get that, we will then start construction. We'll pull a building permit.
All right, so just my own edification, so you've done everything you can, you submitted to those guys, how long's it been in, just for,
How long has been in interconnection?
no, how long's it been sitting in the state's lap after you said, here we go, we're all set to go?
We we were all set to go until there was an appeal.
Until we found evidence that you skirted all the
Until,
rules.
Supposedly, there was evidence, we went back, we gave comments, excuse me one second, Sue. We went back 3 times and came back and said, no, with the county attorney, with our attorneys, with outside attorneys, that we met the requirements. We haven't had a response, and we're all trying to get a response because we followed the rules exactly. We gave similar projects and did the exact same thing that were approved.
No, I understand. I'm saying, you said what you, and you put it in the, here you go, you gave it to the guy at the state. How long ago was that?
At least a year.
So we
2
gotta,
years ago that we filed the complaint.
yeah, but
Well,
okay.
We've answered 3 rounds of comments.
Okay, so right now, you're in 3 rounds of comments on your submission to them?
Correct.
All right, so it's an ongoing thing with the state. They just haven't answered you in a year.
They've come back and asked for other information.
Okay, all right,
But
so
now we're waiting.
it's an ongoing
The
process.
General counsel at DOER left, they brought in, and, well, I don't even know if there's a new one there.
There is a new one.
Yeah.
So one of the issues with DOER, I know I said I wasn't going to speak to you again, I'm really sorry, but I'll try. So one of the issues with DOER, they have never had a complaint like ours, and they do not have a process in place to address it. So they're trying to figure out how to address it because, as stated, it is a valid complaint. They acknowledged it was a valid complaint, and as you know, the state does not investigate anything unless they're pretty sure that there was wrongdoing. So,
That's
That's-
completely incorrect. She's talking now, right?
Okay, she's-
She interrupted me completely
Oh.
incorrect.
Okay,
We've not been-
all right, no.
One at a time.
Easy. All right.
Exactly.
Okay, okay, it's he said, she said. That's why I like to see things the Reaganite. But, so you're not moving, okay, I know, that's fine. And you don't want to give me anything up front. You want it in your conditions. All right. So you want, okay. That's, I'm gonna be a wise guy, but I guess you're gonna write the decision for me. I have no say in it. Meaning, you want this, you're telling me the condition's gonna be in condition of approval. You tell me how you want it written. I'm sitting here as a board, I gotta act and I gotta make a decision, but you've already limited to me that, oh no, we're not giving it beforehand, it's gonna be part of the decision that you have to produce it before you get a permit. You follow? Oops. Okay, you don't wanna give it to me, you don't want this to go on. You want me to put that as a condition of approval.
Correct.
So you've just dictated to me how you want it done, and I have no say in it. That's all. I just want for the record.
Okay.
I understand, we have this a lot, I mean,
It's just time to make it.
no, I'm not, I know, I just want to get that straight. We have a lot of people who love to do that, so.
We think, as I explained before, that this is how it works in the program, and there's no issue at all. There's never been a problem, and no one's ever asked us this. As far as I know, no one else has been asked that. Not that it's invalid, but, so the process, I just have no idea how long it's gonna take DOER, but I'm willing to say, as a concession, the same way we did the fence, that we'll put it as a condition before we can get a building permit, that we deliver this.
Okay, just, nothing to do with you, but just being here for a long time is, things get lost out there, okay? We had a subdivision that didn't have a bond, and they issued building permits. Oh, we didn't know. Same thing here. I don't want things to get lost. When it comes from me, it comes out, it's all in the nice tightly wrapped box over there. If we do it like that, that could get lost. That's all. And I've had enough experience where never should have happened, and a bond on a subdivision is even worse, and they sold the lots and so on and so forth, got caught when they were trying to sell the houses, but that's why I like it all. I condition things for the future, I'm not, produce it up front, but if you choose, if you're not gonna do it, that's fine, I know, I have my view, you have yours.
We understand that, Mr. Chairman, but we also are cognizant of the makeup of the board changing in the near future, and having one member who already has missed a couple of meetings, and with the unknown amount of time it would take to get something from DOER, sorry, it just seems to us more prudent and a better use of time to impose it as a condition instead of holding this in abeyance for however long. Like, my client needs to have some certainty.
You know, I understand, but so don't we. All right, so instead of beating the horse, you kind of understand where I'm coming from. So Paul's missed two, and the way it is he can't vote, but we've been advised in the past if he doesn't affect the vote, but he doesn't have to, if that makes sense. So if you voted 5-0 on anything, his vote doesn't matter. But if it was 3-2, it does. So I'll poll the board. John, I'm saying pull it back, but they choose not to, and I wanted this. Is there anything else or you all set the vote? What do you, your opinion?
Can I clarify one Dover amendment thing on the law case? I'm sorry, but since Walpole Preservation Alliance had a legal case and the town had a legal case, neither one of those cases involved this project, this phase of the project. That was all for North Street. I don't know that Dover even would apply here at all, because part of the reason that North Street went through was because of the number of solar panels in the town. So if that's been approved, and that's 17 acres, that affects.
Well, if that, okay.
So I just wanted to point that out.
That's a legal thing, so if this goes through, somebody can appeal it on that basis, but we can't really do it. But I'll ask, John, I've been flapping my gums all night, but.
I gotta say, I'm coming up in the air. I think a lot of what they've said is correct. I can understand the predetermination, or whatever the term was, and not having the final results yet. I'd have to say we've gotten very little give from the applicant. I have to commend them on their job they did 2 weeks ago in getting us that information in such a great, very short period of time. That was very professional. I don't like what the state is forcing us to do just because the state wants to do it their way. I'd have to say I'm more likely to abstain than anything, because I think there's pluses and minuses, and I'm not sure.
Okay, now, I guess I'm doing this for Kearsarge, actually polling the board. I'm being very nice doing this. Most guys won't. Come on, give me a little. So, you're either way, John, or?
Yes.
Okay, Phil?
So I'm not bothered by having the tentative approval, the preliminary approval, because it really was pre-certification. So I'm not bothered by that, and I'm good with doing the condition on that. I think that, when we look at, I know there are a lot of issues that people raised, and you're probably saying, why isn't the board more, why am I not more worried about those things? And certainly we are worried about all of those things. However, we are bound by our zoning bylaws. And I know people think that we have the power just to say no on lots of things, public safety and so on. But there's limits to what we can do. So, I looked at those things. Now, this project is in, near a residential area, and that's just the way it is. It probably wouldn't be my first choice, but there it is. I think it's a good program for the Aggie, because it's not just experience using solar panels, but it's the combination of agriculture and panels, and that's something that the state is promoting, which is why they have the SMART program, or to doing that part of it. there are a lot of things mentioned, like about property values going down within a mile. Those are things we really can't consider. That's it's outside our purview. As far as the fire safety, we depend on our professional fire department. And, I trust them, and I have to go by what they say. Whether it was possible to move this, coming so late now in the process. So I don't know, but I would be prepared to vote if it came down to that, Jack.
Okay. Kate?
Mr. Chairman, can I just say one thing?
Yep.
I think, because I hear what you're saying, is can you be flexible? Can you do more? And whether you want to, you change this project in many different iterations. But I'm talking to Dan, who's our engineer, we could pull it back 25 feet.
Increase the buffer to the north to 100, I think it's 106 now to 130 feet.
How many feet? 100 what?
Pull it back another 25
So increase it
feet
to
from the top.
130 feet.
130 feet from the property line. Yeah, I mean, I think,
So you're talking, I can talk to that guy with a microphone, that's 3 times that, that's not a lot of space. He's right there.
But it's an issue.
I can hit him with a wiffle ball.
But trying to see what we can do.
but that would be helpful.
I think we can pull it back 25 feet. And then on the other buffer,
That'd be more.
I can't.
Acres.
That's just
Smaller.
So then, so the existing buffer on the east is 151 feet here. I think the question was why we have 105 feet up here. So what we're proposing is to pull this back another 25 feet to be 130 feet from this boundary line. I mean, the driver for this is largely the shading from the trees. That's why it's 150 feet. You don't have that to the north. But to your point, to get it further away from the houses, we could eliminate these panels here, move it back down another 25 feet, so this buffer is 130 feet, and then we would work to try and avoid any impact down to the south here because we'd cross.
So it would be a smaller.
Okay.
Smaller by how much?
Yes.
Well, there's,
You want to chime in there?
Well, a smaller array by how much? So to just say,
so another 25 feet.
I need and I mean no disrespect, but because of the vague answers I've gotten along the way that I need exact, I want to know, how many are we taking out? Where is it going to be placed? It has to be, I appreciate that you're willing to now all of a sudden work with us, but I need to know, I can't have vague answers.
Well, we're saying what we'll do is we'll commit to 25 feet.
Right.
Whatever that means in the array, that's our responsibility.
Right.
We will give you a straight answer, we'll commit to 25 feet.
Right.
And then we'll work out the engineering, but that's on us.
25 feet less of solar panels?
Right, 25 feet, less of solar panels up to the north here.
Well, can't we do the math? I mean, they're how far apart? They're,
But I think we're trying to achieve a setback for you. Is your
Okay,
is
you
your
redu-
requirement
you-
that we actually reduce, that you'd be satisfied only if we reduce the
Okay, you're
number of
lopping
panels?
off 25-foot of panels.
Yeah, so
On
it's-
100%, what does that represent? 5%,
That's what-
6%, 4%, roughly?
So,
What's the acreage of the plot?
It's a separate mix.
It's area.
aren't they spaced? What I'm trying to say is it, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, isn't it simple math? They're
No,
so many feet
It's not,
apart.
and I'll tell you why, because you have to put panels tying them to the inverters and the arrays, so you have to redo the design. It's a
Right.
very fair question, but this is, we're not trying to be difficult. I'm trying to say, I heard the chairman say, hey, do something. Can you be flexible? And I'm trying to say, what we can do is cut down 25 feet at the top here.
Okay. All right, so it's not a, yeah,
To be able to see what they're saying.
okay. Can you show it to everybody?
I'll hold the tape.
Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know what that means.
Just trying to say is,
5 feet, so we increase that to 130 feet.
Okay, so what about me?
The the array here, I think you'll recall, and Mr. Stady actually participated in this discussion with you, was originally closer to your boundary line here.
No.
He was off on
What
the,
are
in
you
the,
doing today for me?
Well, we did this for you previously specifically.
no, sir,
No.
he was off by, he was counting the
No.
outside of the.
Somebody else's property.
Yes, and that was not someone's property.
Okay.
He admitted that.
Sorry,
You can't take 25 from one side. It needs to be,
It's
Okay.
it's 100.
it needs to affect and accommodate for every resident.
Currently, they're at 100 feet, you're at 151.
It
So
does
this
not
is-
matter.
this is
If you're gonna
providing-
do something, you're gonna
providing
have to
more
do
space
something
for
for everybody.
We are, we're responding
Okay.
to the question regarding the northern boundary, and we're increasing it for those neighbours. We're saying we bring it back 25 feet, and so that they feel that you're not getting an advantage.
I'm not getting an advantage, and I don't want anybody to get a disadvantage either.
Then if you're gonna make it equal, it should be 150 feet all around.
Exactly.
So your comments are wrong, and again, wishy-washy.
The
It has to be more than 100
Okay.
feet.
We understand, everybody? Okay. Kate,
I
Are
would
you
say,
ready?
even that little discussion, I mean, that's just not gonna address the majority of the issues that were brought up today, right? I mean, we're talking like, that's a tiny perturbation that is not going to solve any problems.
yeah, the only problem, easy, yeah, and they want to build what they want, and you guys want nothing. So, that's easy. I mean, we are up here to do our job and try to make we're not gonna walk out of here, both sides are gonna hate me, I know that, so.
And we have to follow zoning bylaws, and
Well, yeah. All right, Kate, what do you want?
So I'm uncomfortable just saying 25 feet.
Okay.
I appreciate that they're trying to do something now. I wish it wasn't like the last minute. I need to know more, just because of how this has gone and how the answers I've received have been so vague. I need concrete answers. I need to know what's going on specifically.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that that's not good enough. I'm saying I need to know exactly what it is.
All right. I appreciate you guys doing it. I gave you the flavor of the board. So, what do you want to do? I leave it up to you, because I'm a nice guy. You're gonna push for a vote? Okay.
Should we answer the question regarding the panels? So by moving the 25 feet, it's about a 3% reduction in the size of our project.
Okay, that's what we're looking at, just flat area, that's all I think we're looking for.
You said in the beginning,
And how many
there was
are
no changing. Now we're changing.
Okay, ma'am.
Sorry.
With
I'm just
Okay.
saying how we started.
We're getting down to,
What's the total number
total number of what?
of panels?
About 2,700 modules.
I'm sorry.
About 2,700 modules.
yeah, so times 3%, so yeah, about 30.
Taking off about 90.
Yeah. 20, yeah, 1%, yeah, about 90. All right, now, I only do this for my friends. Meaning, you hear what we're gonna do. You're gonna push for the vote, then fine, then fine, we will vote. If you're willing to do a couple things that was asked, then fine. But
81.
I think we push for a vote. I mean, I'm trying to do everything I can with conditions, and I'm trying to be flexible, and
no, I understand you being flexible.
I don't know what more what we can do that will work. I understand what your ask is, and I know you're trying to, I hear you very loud and clear, you know what's gonna be happening. So I'm trying to say, what can we do? I can satisfy you with DOER, because that's relatively easy. I don't know how quickly they're gonna respond. They've taken a year to respond on something that should be straightforward, where we've been told by our sources, you've done everything right, by the undersecretary, by other people. So the question then is, I'm trying to see what we can do and cut things.
No, I-
Guaranteed revenue under the EMSA. So I don't know what more I can really do, quite honestly, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, you know, my feeling on the letter, I see you started cutting down, and you might have, you know, you could revise your plan a little, but that's, I'm stuck with that, so. And I don't, yeah, and I don't think that's an unreasonable request to have something to tell me the procedure after that, that's all. I mean, it's a pretty simple thing. And as you know, is if you go down, you go to appeal, blah, 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 blah. I never understood, guy, and I've always done it, I've even said to other, if,
Will appeal, but I don't want to do that.
I know, because it's gonna take, it's gonna go like
It
this.
costs everybody money.
Yeah, as opposed to one more.
Butters can appeal to.
We understand that, but you can, if,
When could you do a vote? When you've got to have a public notice.
a vote, we'll just,
If we don't vote tonight.
yeah, we just continue it to the next hearing.
Yeah, the only difference is that the makeup of the board will be different, but the hearing continues.
At that point, you're down to 3 members, right? Because the new member couldn't vote, right? And you'll have the 3 existing members, because I've missed 2.
It could be.
All right, if you put a little bums,
I could be months with a letter
oh,
from DOER. I'm just trying to think of what I could give you. I could give you the guidelines. I could give you the guidelines. In about 10 minutes, we can pull them and download them. But
yeah, I understand, but there has to be some procedure outlined that you guys, when you send this in, how this goes, and that's state regs on how it goes, that's all. If there's something in the state, because everything has a process, so it has to be spelled out. You know, if you can find that process and says, you guys have reached this, and it goes there, I think that's pretty simple.
Sorry? The regulation that was referenced in the letter is the regulation that defines all the steps.
Well, can we get, yeah, well, if we get the regulation, and here it is, and you've,
But I think you noted that you had gone to the regulation and read it.
oh, I went to 225, whatever it was, CMI, I didn't go necessarily to that one. But that's what I'm looking for, is that's one of the things.
That is the answer, Chair. So 225 CMI outlines specifically the process, and then it references a guideline that provides the process again.
Can I get that? I'd be happy with that,
That's not
that's all.
gonna change any of the issues.
I don't think it's going to change anything either. I think you just have to vote.
Okay.
Because the process, it's going to be outlined, everyone's followed this. There's nothing new with this project than any other project. With that, you're asking very fair questions, but that's just how the state process works.
Okay. I try to be fair, I try to stay out of court, try to make it for everybody, but, okay. So, you're all good to go for a vote?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm doing the affirmatives. Make a motion to approve.
Kate lunch.
What? You on overtime?
Yeah.
That's true. Well. No, we can do, because they didn't provide.
We've had meetings till 1 AM before, just want you to all know that.
I understand that.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
that's
not-
all.
I had that, I thought, that's a problem.
Okay. Do I need to hear?
Yeah, and she wanted to know if TD's is still open.
Yeah.
All right, make a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second, Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain.
Stay.
Abstain.
Staying.
Abstain. Okay?
Or abstain?
Yeah.
Yes.
And reason for the abstentions is lack of the clarification to the letter.
And I've missed meetings.
Yeah. And the inability to move the panels to accommodate the neighbors.
And
What? Well, yeah, it's already zoned public safety and all that. All right, and reason being simple is, we had to name those, and that's the reasons why. So, two reasons.
What was the last part? Sorry.
No, okay, one was the letter, and the second one was the unwillingness to move them away to help the neighbors. I know you're a little 25, but, so,
I think you have to say unwillingness to move within more than 25 feet.
no, because that was offered, but wasn't anywhere.
It wasn't actually made in my hand.
As you can see, you had abstentions, because you're not, with site plans, you're supposed to work with people, and we're almost at that point. Didn't get there all the way, so what you got from us, I believe the three of us, or four of us, is that, hey, you're getting close, but, so. One more might have made the difference, but. All right. All right, so everybody understood what happened?
What happened regularly continued?
It's too late. Time's up. Kidding. No, you either vote yes for it, against it, or you abstain. Three of us abstained, and I think Paul was part of the abstention too, is you have to have a minimum of three for, and they only got one. The rest of us didn't vote it down. We just abstained because we wanted more info.
And you didn't get.
And we didn't get more. So it isn't like we're saying, no, we understand they got a right to do this, but we're just saying, I wanted more, and give it, so.
Okay, plan to move forward into the next, what's the next? So what happens now?
It's up to them. They get the next one. I don't know if you can answer this if you'd like, but I don't know. We have a process, you probably know that you appeal to the zoning board. Are you guys gonna do that, or do you know that yet?
We'll have to come back to you on that.
Oh, you don't have to, you won't see us, but a lot of things in the zoning board, sometimes they just bypass it, or some things don't. I'm just, in general, people are just curious, that's all.
I think you know where we're gonna end up.
Okay.
Yeah, Jack, I didn't really think that was an issue.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Well, I did, so, what do we have up?
Sorry, thank you.
I don't.
Appreciate your work.
We walked that land, and we moved
We're
the
not.
panels. We were gonna come down and cut all the trees. He said, no, we don't want that done, and it becomes more of a physical, you can see more of it. So we're trying to block it by leaving those trees there. So
let me-
we weren't gonna win.
Just aside from, the county said no moving
should you
it.
have closed the hearing?
Oh, make a motion to close.
No. Oh, yeah,
Second.
close the hearing.
Okay, Phil, second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No, what I'm saying is, you guys would have moved it, right?
Sorry?
You guys got the edict from the owner, right?
Yeah, and the problem is also we had reduced it dramatically. We've reduced it, was gonna be at one
That's what I
point
like about it.
2.4, and then we went down to 1.7. So we've come with different things. When we walked it up there with Dick Stady and some of the neighbors, we said, you're 150 feet from the property line. From the house, you're set off even more. And there's already existing buffer there. And certainly during the winter, you're gonna lose some. But one neighbor down lower who wasn't here had cut more trees on the county land.
and opened it
You're
up.
still live here, just so you know.
Well,
So, okay.
that's why we kept going back. You're getting closer, but
So, we're trying to be accommodating.
good luck.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, last,
See ya.
night, last item, master plan update.
Well, I was going to say a lot about this, but we met 18 times as a committee. We also sponsored 4 forums, and we had 8 leader meetings with our consultants. So I do want to commend the committee. It was Dean Beavis, Ashley Clark, Carrie DeZenzio, Andrew Flowers, Janet Fasciano, John Hassenegger, Jennifer Kanakis, Jen Maffey, Michael McGrath, Donnell Murphy, and Katie Turco Abate. And Meg Kundorf was on the committee until March 21st, 2022, and she went off because she resigned from her position on the development, Economic Development Commission. So right now, the master plan is in limbo. I've been working with our consultant, and I do want to report that I've made some progress. So Judy has gotten back to me. Our last email correspondence was on May 12th. So she is working on the almost 100 changes that came up from committee members that we sent her, or I sent her. So she's looking to come back with an assessment on how they would handle those, which ones they would do, or what their take on them was. I was hoping to have that for tonight. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So someone is going to have to take this over, because as of May 20th, I'll be off the board and won't be involved in the master plan committee, steering committee at that point. So I hope somebody on this board will, Jack, however you want to handle that. I will let Judy know who to contact. I just want to say that I urge this board to approve the plan. I think we owe it to the community, to Walpole residents. I know that there have been some differences of opinions on how good the plan is or how not good it is. I think the plan is actually very good. I know it's missing some things. I wish that had come off at the end a little better, as far as having some of the changes made. And some of the changes should be made, and we've submitted that list. But when I look at a lot of the comments that the committee members, this board members have had, there were almost none about the recommendations. And really, that's what we owe the town. We have 102 recommendations, and it would be good if the board could approve them. So I'm hopeful that Judy will get us the changes she's going to make, and hopefully that will be satisfactory to the board. But like I said, I'm really urging the board to move forward in one way or another. I mean, at some point, the master plan draft will have less value. So we actually voted to approve the master plan, the master plan steering committee, on June 12th, 2023. So it's going to be 2 years this June. We're coming right up to the 2-year mark since the committee, the steering committee approved it. So I do hope that this board can move forward with that one way or another. As I said, Judy is very willing to work with us, I think, at this point. I've also asked her if we could get the source files for the plan. So right now we have the PDF, which is almost impossible to really do any sizable editing or changing. So much of the master plan was written in Adobe InDesign. So I asked if we could get the source copy of that. I haven't heard back from that. I'm not looking that we should take that on the board. I addressed some of the questions that had come up. And I did also submit to her that there were some of the changes that we talked about at our board meeting on the climate change, that I told her, that the board had agreed not to, that we took those back. So again, I'm just trying to make it easier to get this through. And then lastly, I just want to thank Patrick Desane and Lauren and for their help on the master plan, working it through. they did Patrick did a lot of work on not only organizing, planning meetings, but also giving a lot of good guidance. I appreciate his help on that. So, so with that, I would again say, I do feel we moved another step, and I hope that might inspire you, the board, to maybe keep going, and let's bring this to some conclusion. As I said, I think we do owe it to the town. There's 102 sound recommendations there that it would be good to get and formalize it, so.
Bill,
Yes.
I hope you enjoy your first and third Thursdays.
Thank you very much. I am looking forward to it.
I'm sure you are.
I-
You deserve it.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm also going off then by virtual being one of the members representing the board on the zoning bylaw steering committee.
So you're leaving that?
Unless the board does other thing, but that would be, I'm going off the board, so I can no longer represent the
yeah, we'll
board.
have to get some.
Well, isn't there an opening for like an at-large or something?
I don't know, yeah.
You might check
I'll
with
leave
Pat
that up
on
to
that,
the,
'cause,
I'll leave that up to others.
Appreciate your input.
Geez, Phil, your last night, we ended 11, we could go out with a bang.
Yeah.
We should have been out of here like a 7:15, like the
I was
last
hoping
one.
for that. I thought when one project wasn't going to come before us, that might have,
Yeah, be sure.
that might have offered a shorter meeting, but. This is it? And it has been, I should say that it's been a pleasure serving on the board with the board members.
Sometimes, right? It's been painful for us at some of these meetings.
I've learned a lot.
That have been so long,
I think-
like tonight.
I think for anybody listening, the planning board is a very important board in town. It is a lot of work, but it's also a board where you can make a big impact. We do the service to the town and really giving a lot of our due diligence and looking at bylaws and approving plans and giving input to plans to hopefully make them better. So I do want to say it's been a pleasure having been elected, and I appreciate this opportunity to have served on the board these 6 years. So,
Okay.
thank you all.
Nice job, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
John, thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Are we-
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.